Hello, everybody. Welcome to Becoming the Best You, hashtag BTBY. Look who I've got with me. I got Mr. Saccone Prince. Man, Saccone, how's your weekend going?
It is going amazing, and I am super excited and super pumped about our event coming up next weekend.
Man, I first and foremost, I'm excited to spend some time with the people that I love, and that's including you. You know, we have
Right.
really built this amazing community, and it's worth it just to be part of that. Who cares what's being on the stage, right?
Exactly. That's so exciting.
Yes. Now, Saccone is also one of our board members for Becoming the Best You. We have really put so many things in place so that our accountability is always there. We have so many people in our community that really want to see you get to the next level of your life. They want to help you get there. It's not about pushing you down or about the money or about what status is for us. It is about bringing people along with us. So, Connie, tell us why you BTBY.
Well, I am so grateful and honored to be a part of this organization because I'm truly about helping people to become the best version of themselves. And I know the heart and soul of you, Brenda, as far as wanting to do that. In fact, when you find like-minded people who think differently, it's not hard for you to work with them. It's not hard for you to connect with them because everybody brings something different to the table.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, ultimately, you have something that's bigger and better than it would be if we just did stuff on our own. And so being a part of BTBY has been, in fact, one of the highlights of my professional career and personal life because it allows me to really pour into the people that I've been called to serve. And being a part and being among all these amazing speakers, to me, it just makes me stand on the tower. It makes me be a little more prouder of not only who I am, but who I can help somebody else become. And so that's why I want to be a part of this organization. That's why I'm so excited about this upcoming event. It's going to be like literally coming home to family because when you find your tribe, you find home.
Absolutely. And you guys work together outside of B2BY. You work with Dr. Ruben West, you work with Terrence. There's people that already were working together even prior to becoming the best you. And then they opened up their hearts and their circles to becoming the best you to myself, and they've incorporated it. And that's powerful because your circle is who you're going to be. Did you hear me? Your circle is who you're going to be. So if you got a
Yes,
bad
yes,
circle,
that's so true.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's Sherry. She is one of our speakers at the event as well. Can't wait to hear what she's going to say. She's got here to their consulting. Robert Lyons is watching us. Robert is part of the Black Belt Speakers community and now part of Becoming the Best You community. And that is what we are all about, becoming part of a community for success. Now, see, my definition for success is a little bit different than most people, but Saccone, what's yours?
Well, in fact, my definition of success is being able to pour into the people that you've been called to serve. I like to use the example of a pitcher. What's good is a pitcher if it has no spout, if it has no opening, if there's no way for what's inside to get out. And even when it comes to us as people, as speakers, we have an opportunity to share our gift with the world. And so, my question is, are we getting it out? Are we being successful in delivering that? We all have a gift, we all have a talent, we all have a reason for being, even if it's just sharing our story of how we've overcome some challenges. But if we don't do that, it's like that pitcher that has no spout or that pitcher that has no opening. You have all of this stuff inside, but nobody is getting it. Nobody is benefiting from it. So to me, success is fulfilling, in fact, the role in which that, in fact, we've been called to serve.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that. My key to success, though, is achieving happiness while doing it because I can successfully wash the dishes. I might not like to do it, though. So
Yes, that's true. That's true.
we've got some people here I'm going to bring up. I'm going to bring up Johnny Avocado. I'm going to bring up Coffee Cup Chuck. Hey, guys.
Hey everybody, how you guys doing today?
What's
So
going
they
Doing
are
on,
good.
everybody?
They're part of the conference. Johnny, talk to us about what you're going to talk about.
Oh, I'm going to talk about recoding. And that's the term that I use when we talk about in personal development, the triggers and the responses that are autonomous within our subconscious. I'm going to teach you some of the methods and some of the techniques and the tools that you can use to kind of change that programming for yourself. Oftentimes we talk about habit or discipline, and a lot of people begin to become disheartened there because they don't recognize or understand the difference between how you would use one tool to develop a habit and another tool to help you stay disciplined. And so I'll be talking a little bit about that. The best way that I could describe that is, has everybody ever walked into a room and said, if so-and-so is there, I'm going to leave, right? Or if so-and-so happens, if such and such happens, I'm going to do X. So the concept behind recoding is that we take that basic programming that's underlying for all of us, and we use it to our own benefit. In personal development, we oftentimes talk about how it's our circumstances that have developed and created who we are. And that's absolutely true. And what we do is we use the same tools that the world around us has used to mold us, and we use those tools for ourselves. Personal development is just taking those tools and putting them out in the outside world so we can see them and look at them and use them to our benefit. And so I'm super stoked about having what I'm calling our Super Bowl of better development at the BTBY next weekend, because after your favorite team wins the Super Bowl, then we're all going to go down to St. Louis and we're going to celebrate and become our best versions of ourselves. And we're going to throw some of those sidearms and get in there like the rest of those guys do and score big points for ourselves.
Yes. Last year, the conference ended on Super Bowl Sunday. So the people who were still in town, we had a Super Bowl party at the hotel.
Wow, heck yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did.
Yeah, I've seen all the dance offs you guys were having.
Oh, yeah. It was fun. Well, Chuck, what are you going to talk about?
Well, So we're all locked up in something, you know. A lot of people look at incarceration as something that only happens in a jailed environment. And a lot of us are locked in more than just jail. Some of us are locked in our communities, the community beliefs. Some of us are locked in our relationships, our careers. So there's a lot of prisons that we're locked in. Well, between you come down to the conference and I'll give you the combination lock to get out of that jail cell or that whatever circumstance you're locked in. I'm gonna give you 4 combinations to use to unlock that lock. I'm not gonna give you any of the combinations now, but if you want to get unlocked, if you want to get out of that cell that's keeping you back from your success, come on down and check us out. And I'm definitely going to give you 4 powerful combinations to get you free.
Can't wait to hear it. Let's see who else is going to be there. Let's watch this.
One of the best conferences of the year is finally here, becoming the Best You Conference. Join us live or virtually and hear from the greatest speakers in the country. Brenda Ringwood, Terrence Lethbridge, Stacey Wahey, Arcavius Armstrong, Dr. Lotus Richey, Regina Platt, Dr. Rick Fulton, Anthony Russo, Chuck Doyle, Dr. Ruben West, Jennifer Lauren, Jessica Mortier, Dr. Jawanda Rollins-Fells, Dr. Lauren Michaels Harris, Indy Nam, Tracy Randolph, Isabel Black, Sarah Minguez, Jill Reynolds, Kevin Wilson, Sakoni Prince, Definitely Holly, Chuck Prison, Dr. Michael Freeland, Tommy Morgan, Prince Michael, James Griffin, Charlotte White, Aaron Page, Jeremy Nunez, Jeff Markinet Jr., Belton Showell III. Becoming the Best You Conference, February 17th through the 19th, 2023. Clayton Plaza Hotel, St. Louis, Missouri. Get your tickets today.
Amazing lineup. Amazing
Yes.
lineup.
I tell you,
Tony, go ahead.
I'm telling you, I'm super excited about this meet and greet, man. The black tie affair, the live music. I'm going to tell you what. When I started to become part of this, I didn't know quite what this was going to be in the end, and I'm telling you, I'm blown away. I'm totally impressed, and I'm so happy that I get to be part of this, and I'm on board.
You know, when you experience it, you won't want to miss a minute of any of them going forward. You will want to come and be a part. And we might have a lot of the same speakers each time, but it's still a different conference and we talk about different things. So Coney, talk to us about community within the conference.
You know, one of the things I've learned ever since I started my own personal development and helping other people do that for themselves is the importance of getting around, and I'll say this again, you'll hear me say this often, like-minded people who think differently. And to me, that's important because in order for us to grow and to learn, we can't just be around people that think the same way we do. Now, like-minded means that you have a goal in mind, something that you're trying to go, something that you're trying to achieve. But when you're around other people that are going after their goals and their dreams, they may have a different approach, and you can learn from them. But being around somebody that's going after their goals and dreams, somebody that's passionate about what they do, it develops a passion in you. It actually inspires you. I tell people that motivation is internal, inspiration is external. You can inspire somebody all day, but until you have that internal motivation to do it, because see, motivation comes, it shows up in the hardest of times because it's internal. It's not what's going on outside, it's what's inside. I tell people all the time that, you know, pressure doesn't really develop, it reveals. Here's an example. If you put pressure on an orange, what's going to come out? Grape juice? No. Apple juice? No. Orange juice. So what we put on the inside comes out in those hard times, in those pressures, under those pressures. And so being around people that even though they are facing the pressures of life, but they are still going after their goals and their dreams, it helps to develop in you the possibility that it can be done. That in spite of what I'm facing, in spite of what I'm going through, in spite of what I'm dealing with, I can achieve, I can go after my dreams because I see somebody else over here dealing with 10 times worse than what I'm going through. But they're still just that motivated. They're still just that passionate. They're still just that committed to getting and doing what it is they've been called and given to do. I remember sharing with somebody else about consistency. And I said, consistency, you can't talk about consistency without talking about commitment. Because without commitment, there is no consistency. If you show me somebody that's consistent about anything, I can tell you at some point in time in their life, they made a commitment to do it. They made a commitment for the outcome. They made a commitment for the benefit. And if you don't start with that commitment, there won't be any consistency. If you won't have that consistency, there won't be any success. And if you're not successful over time, there won't be a legacy. So for those people that want to leave a legacy, it starts with your commitment. What are you committed to? Are you committed to bettering yourself? Are you committed to attending events like this? Are you committed to showing up for yourself to be the best version of you? And you know what? Even doing so, you let other people know it's okay to do the same. My youngest son told me at the age of 10, he was proud of me because I was putting on a conference. I realized he was watching me. And somebody's watching you. Somebody's looking to see, are you really going to better yourself? Because if you can do it, then I can do it. Again, you inspire somebody else by doing what you are motivated to do for yourself. And so this conference, it allows you to get around people like that. And you can see the passion in their voice and how they share and talk about stuff. And it stirs something up in you. It inspires you to the point to where you want to take what you've learned at BTBY and go back and share with your community. You want to tell other people so that they can come and they can experience this life-changing event and this community of people that just want to, quite frankly, be better versions of themselves.
Couldn't have said it better. And now you know why Saucony talks on stages all over the world.
I had to read myself in. I was like, okay, somebody else need to talk.
No, I think it was absolutely amazing. You know, here's the thing, though. That part about the orange and the juice that's coming out is so truth bomb dropping because you don't know what's actually going to come out of you until you're in that pressure. So my question to everybody is, what's coming out of you when you're squeezed? Is it the real deal coming out, or is it something else? You know, we tend to put on a fakeness, a facade, whatever it is that's going on in your life. And then when the pressure happens, the real you tends to come out. So let's make sure that real you is what you're portraying to be, because often talk on perception, and perception is reality, but it doesn't mean it's true. But the truth,
Yeah,
the truth
that's
does
it.
come out. The truth does come out. Hey, Chuck, tell us a little bit about Coffee Cup Chuck and your First Cup KC, the things you've got working. You've went from nothing to being a very successful business person. And I'm not even talking about money. I'm talking about your mindset. Give us a little bit of a story.
Well, that's what it's about. It's about the mindset, and tap on what Sakoni was saying earlier. It's about the people who you're around. I mean, when you think about it, if you raise a lion,
Operator error, sorry.
no, that's cool. If you raise a lion amongst lambs, that lion is going to believe that he's a lamb, no matter how vicious and ferocious and no matter how powerful he is. If he's dwelling with just a simple lamb, he's never going to understand the power he has within, when it comes to being what he actually is. And we are all made great. It's just, I like to say we all have gifts. Every single one of us, we have a gift. But if you're around the wrong person, it's not about the gift. It's about the purpose of the gift. What gift do you have? Once you find out what gift you have, you got to find out the purpose behind the gift, or guess what? The gift really never means anything in this world. Sometimes in order to find out what that gift is, you got to get yourself around people that'll bring that purpose out of the gift. And that's when Sakoni said, man, you got to get around the right people. This conference isn't just about who's showing up. It's about who's there. And I like to reiterate on a couple of other interviews that I've had here in the last couple of weeks, when I say those tickets are cheap tickets to see us on TV or to see us as we are now. But the experience you get when you're in the room with these people, the experience you'll get hearing those side stories, the experience you're going to get being able to hear the rumble in the voices and to shake the hands and to actually sit down and tap into the mind of some of these people who have been able to overcome a lot of things. That's the great part. A lot of people look at me. I have family members. I have people who knew me in my old life that say, golly, dude, you've changed so much. You've come from such a deep, far place that, but I get up every morning, Monday through Friday, and I give what I can give. And that's my knowledge of how I was able to do things, and how I'm able to do things is there's certain codes you stick to. There's certain codes, like I said earlier, there's a combination to making it to wherever you want to make it. How you going to get that combination? How you going to start finding out what you need, that picking tool to pick that lock? You're going to find it with people who have already done it. You're going to find those keys to success from people who've managed to do it. And I'm going to touch again on what Sakoni said earlier, consistency, constantly doing the same thing over and over again, even when people don't seem to understand or watch, because like Sakoni said earlier, you are an influence and everyone's watching what you're doing, no matter if you think they're not watching or not. I have a son that I love, and we don't have a good relationship with each other talking in person. But guess what? When you think that you can't get through to somebody, it's just in the influence. Lead through your influence. Be the influence. Be the person that heals instead of the person that steals. And guess what? You'll get a lot farther in life, but stay consistent whatever you do. I get up every morning and I put these coffee cups out like it's going out of style. And in the beginning, I thought it was corny, Coffee Cup Chuck. That sounds corny. But you know what? I said this ain't for me. This is for someone who needs that push in the morning. This is for those people who forget things, that those important things that it's going to require you to keep going. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to keep people going. I'm here to keep, when you think that it's over and there's no way around it, I'm here to remind you that you forgot something. So let me quickly drop a bug in your ear and get you pushed out the door and get you going. That's what me and my team at the BTBY do. We keep you guys remembering that you have a purpose. That gift you got to get working on it. You got to get moving on it. And if you don't understand what that purpose is, come hang with us for a little bit and figure it out.
You'll find out pretty doggone quick. Just, I would tell you, the first hour in the room, you're going to go, why did I even second guess this? And, 3 days for $350 with food and a concert and a comedian show and these speakers. We have people who are on national platforms, on international platforms, people who are making changes in the world. Dr. Lauren Michaels Harris, he's got an event in Romania this year that he's going to be at this event. He's also a Lifetime Presidential Achievement Award winner as a felon. What does that tell you about change? We also have somebody on this screen who's got that same award. Saccone, tell us about it.
Well, I had the opportunity, because of my coach, Dr. Ruben West, to receive a Lifetime Presidential Achievement Award back in, I believe it was 2019. And to say that I'm honored is an understatement. When you have spent the better part of your life trying to help people, trying to better the world around you, trying to make a difference in the lives of those people who you've been called to serve, somebody takes notice. Somebody notices your heart and your intent. There are a lot of people that do stuff for the applause and not for the cause. But if you're only doing it for the applause, when the clapping stops and when they stop singing your praises, guess what? You'll stop. Go back to that commitment. If your commitment is that external praise, when that external praise is not there, you'll stop. But if your commitment is truly making a difference in somebody else's life, if your commitment is truly making the world a better place, then whether anybody sings your praises or not, whether anybody gives you an award or not, you're going to be found doing that thing that you love to do, the thing that you're called to do, the thing that you're gifted to do. And I know for myself, there's no greater sense of purpose that I've had than being able to pour into somebody else. I mean, as you can tell, I love to talk. I love to communicate. I love to help people understand what they have to offer to the world. Because I believe that there are so many people that really have yet to truly take an inventory of themselves. We ask questions of everybody else. When was the last time you asked some questions of you? And the only reason I can say this with so much passion is because that's become my lifelong journey and goal, to be a better version of myself, to question, why do I do what I do? And I'll share a little bit about this at the BTBY, how I kind of got to this place of personal development. And it's a personal story. But the reality is all of us have an opportunity to make an opportunity. I'm going to say that again. All of us have an opportunity to make an opportunity. And here's what I mean. We have an opportunity to better ourselves. We have an opportunity to put ourselves in a position to get what we need. And so I want to encourage everybody that's even tuning in right now, make it a point to be better than you were yesterday. We're not talking about having to leap tall buildings in a single bound, but just take a step. Just climb one flight of stairs. Just do what it is to make yourself better. Read something, walk somewhere, go out in the woods. Do whatever it is that's going to make you better, makes you less stressed, make you more pleasant, make you I'm serious, because I mean, we can take so much stuff on that it affects the way that we deal with other people. And sometimes we need to unplug and pull back, and we need to actually have a chance. I can't wait. I can't wait for next week, because there's something I'm going to share that I honestly believe is going to change everybody's life.
I
mean,
can't wait.
and I can't even talk about it. I can't even go into it now, but I'm telling you, it's going to make them. You want to be at this event. You want to be at this conference because it's going to help you see yourself in a different light, which is the first step to you becoming a better version of yourself. And especially when you see other people that are doing the same, you're like, oh yeah, I can do this. I can do this. When you have people like Coffee Cup Chuck, and when you have Mr. Avocado, are you bringing avocados with you? I want to know because I love me some guacamole. So I just want to know, are we going to be handing those out at the door?
Well, I tell
Man,
you
but
what,
I am so excited. I'm telling you, this event, you got to be there. You just have to be there. Whatever you have to do, make the sacrifice and make the investment in yourself to be there. Because that's what it is. It's an investment in you.
Yes, it is. Well, you guys ready to get this party started? We've got our our first speaker actually coming up. We had Dean Kent, but he is in Australia and we couldn't get the times to work because the time difference is crazy. So he'll come on another show. He actually has been on our virtuals. You can go back and look at some links if you want to hear what he's got to say. But I'm going to put John and Chuck down. Thank you guys for coming. I keep saying John, but it is Johnny Avocado. He goes by that.
John
Thank you
E.
for joining us
Avocado.
today. Yes, John E. Avocado. And
Before
Go ahead.
before you step me down, I just want to say one more thing, and this is again capping off of what Sakoni said earlier. Take the first step. Yes, take the first step. But when you take that first step, and I'm gonna leave with this, when you take that first step, make sure it's a step on your pride, because pride is what tends to hold us back from the greatness that we were meant to put on this world. So take the step. Take the step. Sakoni said take the step. So take the step, y'all, but make sure that first step you take is on your pride. Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. Biblically speaking, pride goeth before the fall.
Yes. Right. I'm saying when Sakoni said take the first step, boom, it reminded me, man, a lot of our first steps, the second step is a lot easier. If when you take that first step, you make sure you get a good heel, get the middle of your feet, you get that heel and you get it sunk in to that pride, because I'm telling you, man, the pride in what other people think, the pride in failure, not wanting to fail. I mean, the pride is so much pride around that success, so much, and the pride is so tall you can't see over it. But you gotta step on it. You gotta get it down to where you can see what's on the other side of pride, because there's some great things on the other side when you start letting your pride down and you start going for it. So thank you guys for having me on the show.
You bet. Thanks for joining, both of you, and we will see you in the event next week.
Stay positive, people.
Well, Sakoni, our next speaker is Brandy Bretthauer. She first and foremost classifies herself as the daughter of a king, and she's probably going to talk about that a little bit today. She's a wife, mother, and a kingdom mentor, advisor, sales strategist, and speaker. She equips leaders to hear God's voice and strategize the joy in being fully alive, not just hanging out, but being fully alive in your calling to create the influence, impact, and income you desire. So I'm going to bring on up Brandy Bretthauer.
Hey,
how are you?
I am pumped. Like, listening to this panel backstage, you all are thinking with Jesus in partnership. There's so many golden nuggets that you guys dropped back there, just biblical truth, that I was just fired up just listening to the last 30 minutes. So I can't imagine what you guys are going to bring at this conference. So I'm just excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming. I met Brandy at an event that I was speaking at, not maybe just a month ago. And the power of networking is a big deal, because you never know who's going to show up in your life. And that's how I met Sakoni. Even he was part of Black Belt Speakers, and I went to an event in Kansas City that Dr. Ruben West was at, and I got to meet him, and I got to be on other platforms with him when COVID hit. We shared the stage a lot on some virtuals, and we just connected. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened in my life. And then Brandy, we actually went to dinner. We got to know each other, and here she is speaking at this wonderful mastermind because we really care about you. So, Connie, you got some questions for Brandy?
Brandy, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you mean by sail with Jesus.
Ooh, I only got 20 minutes. No. Okay. So you'll see, did I do it? I did. Okay. You'll notice I put sail with in capital letters.
Correct.
With is always in partnership, right? So when we're seeking the Father's heart, what you're going to find, I get so much goosebumps. When you're seeking the Father's heart and you're taking thoughts captive, even in the middle of the most challenging of circumstances, you are able to like bring heaven to earth. You're able to experience a peace that surpasses all understanding. And you're able to not look at, there's a difference between facts and truth. Right? You're able to go, okay, this is what the lab results are telling me, but what did Jesus tell me? And then you get to partner with those words, and that's where you get to bring heaven to earth. And we get to do this. We get to do this in every area of our life. And oh man, we could just talk forever about just partnering with him and yielding into him. And someone else mentioned, you guys use different terminology, but that's why we go through this wilderness season. So when the pressure gets tough, it's the goodness and the love of Jesus that's poured out so that you can have that ripple effect of community and the changing atmospheres. Because when you are groomed and perfected in him and you allow him, his love to pour out, that's where you change lives. That's where we see in 1 John 18, go double check because I don't know for sure, where the perfect love of Christ cast out fear, right? So, man, I could talk forever about this, but this is just a little sliver of taste of what I think it's like to partner with Jesus in every area of our lives and what it's like to experience that.
Would you imagine if you're squeezed under pressure and Jesus is what comes out?
Well, actually, that's what's really supposed to happen. And I know I didn't go into a whole lot of detail, but for instance, using that analogy about the orange, well, that stuff is put in every day. The orange grows every day. So it's only when the pressure comes that the juice comes out. And us taking in fact, the love of God, us taking in the patience of God, us taking in the understanding of God on a regular basis. So when pressure comes, that's what comes out. Yep. And so we just have to make sure, are we getting it in? Are we taking it in? I had the chance to talk last week on a Mastermind's prayer call, and I called all the fellas and said, "You're a pizza box." And they looked at me like I was crazy. I said, "No, you are a pizza box." I said, "Have you ever gone to a pizza party and they lifted up the lid of a box and there was no pizza in it? So then you went to the next one and you picked up the lid of the box, there was no pizza in it. So you go to the other table and picked up the lid of the box and there was nothing in it." The pizza box only has value because of what's inside. And if we are claiming to be a Christian and people lift up the lid and there's no Christ inside, what is it? What you do with pizza boxes, you tend to throw those away. Well, the good thing about it is God doesn't throw us away. He can put more Jesus in us. So we can go out into the world and we can actually feed them. And so I'm excited, Brandy, in fact, to have you, in fact, to be a part of this. And I know that you're going to just bring the house down with what God has given you.
Yeah. And with that, the stage is yours.
Oh, man, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. And I generally do this in a longer setting, a workshop setting. So I'm going to try to be concise. I have lots of homework for you guys that's going to be transformation too. So please grab your pencils and paper because it's this homework that he talked about, the commitment, and I talk about faith habits, right? And I want you to get into the word and see what the words talks about with these 5 steps to mastering a servant heart sales conversation. So I'm going to share 5 steps with you of partnering with Christ, of how to flow in a sales conversation. So you're experiencing this transformation. You know, Jesus left this legacy, and we don't oftentimes look through business and look at Jesus through the lens of business, but he's the greatest marketer there ever was, going through Galilee and preaching and sharing his message. He is the greatest salesman, and he did it. It was how he embodied it that we need to step into and reframe our mind. So I'm going to share a short story first because, well, that's how he did it, was parables, right? And stories stick with people. So hang with me just a second. And Super Bowl's coming up, right? Huge Super Bowl, go Kansas City Chiefs. If you guys are getting ready to host a Super Bowl party and you want to invite everybody over to your home for dinner, for kickoff, what are you going to do, right? We're going through 5 steps of what you're going to do. You're going to be purposeful. You are going to make some phone calls, send out some text message. You're probably going to put people in different charge of different foods, right? Then when they're there, you're going to engage in community and you're going to listen. These are people that maybe you haven't hung out with for quite a while, and you're going to engage with them in deep conversation and pull out, how's life going? What's going on? Over dinner, we listen to our guests, right? We don't make the conversation about ourselves. We make the conversation about them, right? So PLAA, what if you come over to my house for Super Bowl party? I'm going to add value to you guys. You're going to have a buffet. My husband's going to cook ribs. You're going to experience all of this food, right, at a dinner party. I'm adding value. I'm not going to invite you over for dinner without adding value. How awkward would that be, right? Hey, come over for dinner, and then there's no food, right? So I'm going to add value. And then we're going to transition. Once dinner's up, I'm always going to ask you for dessert. I'm always going to ask you for dessert. And then at the very end, when the game is over, when the dinner party is over, when we're wrapping things up, and we've experienced such this beautiful display of fellowship and being in community with one another, how oftentimes when you get ready to leave, you just can't quite, you stand at the car for another 20 minutes, right? Because the experience was so beautiful, right? And what ends up happening? Like, we need to do this again. We end with the beginning in mind. We go ahead and we make plans to get together and do it again. Follow up, right? So that's the story and the lens of which I want you to see how we can host a servant-led, Christ-centered sales conversation is through my 5-step plate model: purposeful, listen, adding value, transitioning, and last but not least, ending with the beginning in mind. That strong follow-up. So I know we don't have a ton of time here, but I'm going to go through each one of those in a little bit. And this is where your homework comes in, because I don't have a ton of time to go through scripture, but this is what's going to transform your sales is if you start to look up each one of these steps and go, well, how is Jesus purposeful? And meditate on those scriptures, right? He wants us to give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures. He talks about in Psalms. So that's one thing I always do when I start my sales conversation. I always give those person thanks, guys. It is an honor and a privilege that those individuals booked a call with me. They could be anywhere else. So go through, what does your purposefulness look like? Giving thanks to them, setting the expectations up on the phone call, and confirming what to expect as you go through that call. But the most important parts of these steps is rooting it in biblical truth, because that's where you're going to get your transformation. So we can see in Psalms 32:8, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. He's saying, if we're purposeful, he's going to give you the words. He's going to give you the clarity to partner with him and think with him, because no two people are alike. So getting on a call, it's going to be a little bit different of how you flow. Yes, there's a framework, right? But that's why why I'm encouraging you guys so much to partner with him. And think about how many times did Jesus go off and he was alone. He was purposeful about spending time in prayer with God. So he knew how to take out his next step, to leave the legacy that he did today. Okay, and the number one step, guys, and this is the step you're going to spend the most time on, and don't hesitate to stay here longer. This is listening, guys. I want you to start to think about the way Jesus embodied listening. And one of my favorite stories in the Bibles is the Samaritan at the well, where Jesus was purposeful. If you really read that, he was purposeful about showing up at the well at noon when this woman, the Samaritan woman, was going to be there. And women normally didn't go there. There was so much purposefulness, right? But he asked deep questions. He continued to ask deep, loving questions so that she could experience the revelation on her own that he is the living Messiah. And as they talked about earlier, so you become a living wellspring and you run out and you share the good news and you offer your solutions that you've been anointed with, right? And you're like, I can help you with that. And when you radiate with that kind of a confidence, they're drawn to joy, right? They're drawn to peace. In a secular world that's vying for our attention, right? They're drawn to that. So that's what happens when we fill ourselves with the word and we meditate on it in the lens, in the perspective of what he's asking us to do and carry out. So ask thoughtful, be purposeful about what questions you're asking regarding the kind of industry that you're in and the solution that God's asking you to bring to the world. Ask them, tell me more about the problem you're experiencing. Why is this important? If I had a magic wand and I could transform your business, what would it look like? And the point of asking questions here is getting to the emotional reason of why they want to make a change. I know you've probably heard it before, but people, they buy based off of emotion and they justify off of logic. But if you can help them solve that emotional reason, and what I like to use the example of is if for some reason, if I was talking to someone who is a mindset coach, right? And their thing is motivational speaker, and they're wearing all the hats in business, and they really want to free up more time to do their anointing gift that Jesus gave them. And they're talking to a bookkeeper to outsource, right? That bookkeeper needs to get to the heart of, well, why is this a pain point for you? Well, it's a pain point because I struggle. It's a pain point because it's taking me away from my zone of genius. Then I'm spending hours that I shouldn't be, and I should be, spending time with my family, right? That's why they want to outsource it. That's why they want to bring on extra help, is so that it frees them up to do what God has asked them to do and not take away from additional time. Like, that's an emotional reason. I've been on calls, and do not assume what their emotional reason is to solving the problem. I have been on calls with people whose emotional reason to solve their problem in their business had nothing to do with that particular example. It had everything to do with, like, I want to make more income so I could provide and help my grandkids' savings for college. There are so many different reasons. I spoke with a woman who wanted to make more money in her business so that her husband wasn't working the crazy hours, so that they could have more time together. He could pull himself back. So don't make assumptions about what people's emotional reason is to solve their problem. But I want you to hang out here, and I want you to keep asking those revelation type of questions in the heart, getting to the heart of why they want to solve this problem. And so that they can experience the revelation that you have that solution to give them. So this is the most important step. Guys, if you shortchange this step, you're going to shortchange yourselves. Okay? I cannot express that enough. Step 3, though, is you're adding value. You're adding value. You're asking those questions. And don't, guys, you getting on a call itself and taking your years, decades of experience with a solution that God's anointed you with is value in itself. Okay. I first want to state that. But, what else can you share with them? Is it a resource, a book, a podcast? Is it a referral? Sometimes I get on the call and I can tell that really the heart of what's going on is they really need this. And I know someone is more gifted in this area than I am, right? And it would take me out of my zone of genius. So making that referral. So what is that value add? What the one piece of golden nugget that you can provide them, right? And again, each one of these steps, I want you to go to the Bible. Just go to Google and go, how did Jesus add value? How did Jesus demonstrate listening skills? How did Jesus be purposeful, right? And step 4, guys, this is the most missed step in the sales conversation process, the most missed step. And it is simply transitioning to the ask. And this is where I really get in scripture and I would meditate on those verses, the number of times where Jesus says, hey, come follow me. Come follow me. I know I am discerning because of my walk with Jesus and because of what I've been through myself through the wilderness, that this is the problem that you have. Come follow me. I can help you in this, and here's the thing, guys, not everyone said yes. So we have to be okay with that too. Not everyone said yes to Jesus. Not everyone's going to say yes to us, but we have to look at it from a lens of we are planting seeds with these individuals that we're coming in contact with every single day. And then you're going to get those people who I think it's Matthew where it talks about where the seed is sprinkled. Sometimes the seed is sprinkled on rock and other, and it goes on and on. And you're going to get those people who are hungry, that are ready. And those are your people. But you have to ask. You have to ask them, come follow me. And sit with Jesus. Ask him what the language is for you, right? What is the language that I'm going to feel comfortable and confident with saying, hey, come follow me? Are you ready to do this thing, right? Are you ready to jump into this offer? So transition. Do not forget that, guys. It is the most missed step in the sales conversation. And the final step is just really ending with the beginning in mind. Depending on how that conversation went, how many times have you gone on the call and they have to talk with their business partner or they have to talk with their spouse before they make a big investment? Well, then we're ending with the beginning in mind. We're setting a follow-up call. When do you think you might be able to talk to them? Okay, I got the ball game this night. Okay, we can talk Tuesday night. Okay, so set a follow-up call on Wednesday. If they're saying yes, end with the beginning in mind. What's your onboarding process like? Do you sit there and take payment over the phone now and send that call, send the instructions? Like, what is your onboarding process like? But you have to end with the beginning in mind. I've been on calls where they're like, yes, but I'm currently in a 6-month program. We end here. Can you follow up with me closer to, because people's plates are, we don't want to become overwhelmed. So make sure you follow up with that task. The conversations go so many different directions. And so we really have to, and this is why we have to be partnering with Jesus. We have to be partnering with Jesus so we can discern through each one of these steps what questions to be asking, how to move forward and flow in a way that has those people being left with nothing but love and value, where they're saying, I want to do that again. I want to experience the atmosphere that you brought to the table because you embodied the characteristics of Jesus. And those are the 5 steps, guys. I look for time here. Those are the 5 steps to mastering a servant-led sales conversation. Be purposeful, listen, add value, transition to your offer, and end with the beginning in time, end with the beginning in mind. Now, your homework assignment, guys, I literally want you to sit down. If we were doing this in a workshop fashion, we would be going through each one of these points and packing it full with biblical truth. Because when you meditate on biblical truth, that's when the renewing of your mind happens. This strategy is easy. We can Google strategy all day long. What's going to make or break you is the mindset behind the strategy. That's my heart for you guys to go and do the homework and get rooted in biblical truth here. And then sit with him and talk to him about, how can I be purposeful in other areas of my life? How can I listen in other areas of my business and life, and so forth? So that's my heart behind it. And I hope that you guys understand the transformation that can be taken when you sit in biblical truth and meditate on that. But that's what I got for you guys today, of how to master a servant-led Jesus conversation, partnering with him. And I just can't thank you enough for hanging out with you guys.
You did an amazing job. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So what do you do for a living?
Yes. So I equip leaders, just like yourself. I equip leaders to amplify God's voice and strategize the joy of living fully in your calling. So I do this in two main ways. I do this one-to-one, and generally those individuals we're partnering with God to bring heaven to earth for your business and strategizing. I'm exceptional at organization, clarity, structure. So people work with me one-on-one with that and strategy. And the other main way is through my mentorship and mastermind community called Think with Jesus. And that's where we get to come together in community and really start to unpack the calling, whatever you might be called for, as a speaker, as a bookkeeper, a VA, whatever your calling is, and really start to walk this journey out together in partnership, in community, of what it means to be yielded and surrendered to him in our businesses and partnering with him. And this is what happens. I don't want to get on too big of a tangent, but how many times have people bought the guru's plan? They've spent thousands and thousands of dollars, and they followed every I, they dotted every I and crossed every T. And the ROI was just not there. It was not there and it worked for the guru. They have 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure business. It worked for them, but why isn't it working for them? It's because Jesus has a plan for you. He has a path for you, right? He wants you to partner with him and bring that out. That's what I help people do. That's what I help people do, is partnering with them. And those are the two main ways that I help people do that.
And how can they get in touch with you?
I am on almost any social media channel. So, I think I know you're on Facebook. This was streaming on Facebook. Just click my name, send me a direct message, introduce yourself. Let's have a conversation. I'm all about relationships. So, let's connect, but I'm almost on any social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. And I can even drop my email or something in the chat too, if you'd like.
Yeah, you can put it in the comments on Facebook, or it's streaming to about 7 different places. So
yeah,
we can find you. Well, thank you, Brandy, so much for joining us. Look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, guys. Have a blessed day, and I'll be keeping you guys in our prayers for this conference next week.
Sounds amazing. Thank you. Thanks. Well, Saccone, let me tell you, a lot of people have faith, right? Mm-hmm. And we can think of faith in a God type of way, or just faith in ourselves, faith that something's going to happen, faith in your circumstances. But when you have it, it's powerful. Absolutely powerful. Yeah. I have to admit that sometimes I didn't have faith in myself, and I had to get that strength through Christ. And when you do that, doors will open for you. Your whole environment changes right down to the people in it. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier about your circle, who you have with you. Right. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're supposed to be changing rooms, right? Right. And same way with your circle. But I'm not saying to kick people out. What I'm saying is you can deal with them differently going forward. Yeah. When you know what's coming down the pike. We tell our kids, when they're when they're in high school, middle school, don't hang around so and so because, I heard this about them. But sometimes we put those blinders on and we let people lead us down a path that you can't sometimes get out of. And I was in that situation more than once, that I allowed people to control my life.
Mm.
Yeah. So our next speaker, man, he's I've been working with him now for a couple weeks on some website stuff and speaking tips. He's wanting to get into the speaking arena. He's a swim coach for a school district, and he's probably at a meet, so he's probably stepping out to do this. But he's been in the sales, consulting, and coaching business in the field of that for over 9 years. He's very fluent in customer relations, support, strategic problem solving, project management, and helping others in their career path to success. He's outgoing and a knowledgeable salesperson. He's a motivational speaker who is driven to empower businesses and spread the path to success. He's got an extensive portfolio with many passions that have put him directly face to face with people, building close connections, expanding experiences, getting others out of their own way. Have you ever been in your own way, Saccone?
Yes, I've been in my own way too many times.
It's a problem, and this is some of the stuff that he talks about. So welcome, Austin Atchison, double A, to the stage.
Thank you for that awesome introduction, Brenda, and nice to see you, Saccone. I have not met you yet, but
How you doing, Austin?
yeah, absolutely. So that was a really good introduction of what I do and why I've kind of come to this forum. So really, let's kind of get into it. What I'm going to talk about today is really what my view of success is.
I told you he was at a thing. He was getting ready for a state swim meet.
Yes. So a real quick thing on that is my swimmers are looking really good. My high school boys have really done a good job this year, and we're getting ready. We're gearing up for our big state championship. And actually, I've been talking to them a ton recently about this kind of stuff. One, I'm excited about doing it. Two, I need to motivate them all the time. And that's kind of my job as the coach. So let's kind of move forward with it. So I kind of mentioned that success to me is really just kind of making sure you can maintain a lifestyle that keeps you happy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm going to put us down and let you have it.
All right. Thank you, guys. I am going to get started. Let's do it. All right. So, yeah, as you guys heard, I am Austin Atchison. I have been in sales and really kind of working with friends, anybody who reaches out to me or anything like that, with trying to get them out of their own way, remotivate them, get them, kind of out of a funk, whatever the case may be. What I want to start with is a story. And I spent the last couple of days trying to decide if I was going to make up a story and then try to connect it. But I think I'm just going to tell a story about myself or something that happened to me when I realized that the biggest thing that gets in the way of your happiness is you. So I was a swimmer from 4 years old all the way through college. I did swim. I'd say I was a low-end national level swimmer, very low-end Olympic trial swimmer. What that means is I would swim one event at nationals or Olympic trials out of 13. And in my one event of probably 150 people, I'd probably get about 120th to 150th. So I was there. I was at the dances, but I wasn't quite anything special. So my senior year of high school, when this kind of started becoming the case where I was around that level, I had gone to high school swim, and I had a ton of goals in mind. I wanted to break a state record. I wanted to bring our school its first state championship. Put a lot of work into it. Everyone knows what goal setting goes into it, everything like that. I had a great senior year state meet. It went as well as I could have imagined. I didn't quite hit the times or some of the goals, but overall the core goals were met. Moving forward 2 weeks, I was done with high school swim. I was into club swim, which is where you really focus on qualifying for meets such as nationals, US Open, and Olympic trials. So I'm getting ready for my first race. high school swim doesn't have a lot of distance races, which I am a distance swimmer, was a distance swimmer. So I'm 32 now, and I am not in any kind of shape to go swimming. But I get ready for my 1,000 freestyle, which is my first event at this next big meet. Double the distance of anything I had done in high school for the last 3 months. I'm standing behind the blocks, behind the starting blocks, and I'm looking to my left and my right, and I see tons of guys that I've raced against since I was 10 years old. So for the last 8 years, some of them 10 years. And most of them I haven't ever beaten. Most of them are actually extraordinarily faster than me. In fact, the guy to my right was a friend of mine that ended up swimming all 4 of his years at Auburn, which is an incredibly fast school. The guy to my left spent all 4 of his years swimming at Stanford, which is also an incredibly fast school. And then since there were 8 lanes, there were, 5 other people to deal with, that all of which were people I knew and all of which people I'd either barely have beaten or have never beaten. So I sat behind the blocks and I said, okay, I've signed with my college. I know where I'm going. I had the most successful state that I could have imagined. I was extraordinarily happy and proud. So I said, what does it matter? What's the worst that happens here? I dive in and I go out hard, and all the guys that always beat me again. And I don't do great. I add time, whatever the case may be. So I said, well, why worry about what's the worst that's going to happen? And I said, who cares what they do? I'm just going to dive in with this happy feeling I've got, this excitement about what's coming and what I've done. And I'm not going to care what they do. So I got up on that block feeling less nervous before a race than I think I ever had my entire life. I don't know about any of you, but I get real anxious, especially whenever I'm in a position to test my mettle. I've been training for a long time or studying a long time or working on a client for a long time. And now it's time. Let's find this out. Let's see what we can do here. This is the first time I kind of got up on a block ready to do a start and went, all right, let's do this. I started that race off so far ahead. I jumped out to 3 body lengths ahead, which is the equivalent of watching Usain Bolt win the 100 or the 200 back in 2008. I was far ahead. I felt great. I was doing phenomenal. I knew I had to be going fast just because of where I was at. I ended up losing the race. The guy who went to Stanford, my friend, he caught me and beat me. Now, remember, I did say I was a distance swimmer. Generally speaking, that was me. I would run people down. I would catch them and pass them. Now, I didn't think it would happen in this race, but I definitely didn't think I would be the one to be caught and beat. However, if you remember what I said, at this point, I was really just and for the rest of my career too, keep in mind, I was really a low-level national swimmer. Well, after this race, even though I did lose, I was 2 seconds off the record for this meet, and I had put myself at 17th in the nation. Like I said before, there's about 150 people per event, and I put myself 17th. That was one of the most incredible races of my entire career. I swam for 20 years, from 4 years old to 24, all through college, and then 1 year after college to try to make sure I could do as best as I could at Olympic trials. Besides the point. The reason I tell this story is to show how powerful it can be to reframe your thoughts and really just get out of your own way. Now, I have not been the best at this, but this was the time that I discovered that the biggest hurdle to overcome is between your ears. That mind that gets in your way. So today I really do want to focus on some of the things that I think really benefit you as a person to try and focus on the correct paths to be successful, which I mean happiness. And to do that, obviously you have to get out of your own way. That is the biggest hurdle. In fact, too much focus is spent on other people, measuring your successes or failures in relation to other. If you notice, I mean, really none of what my story, I mean, yes, I was thinking about the others, but what caused the happiness? What caused me to actually be able to be free and unencumbered to really push myself in that 1,000 was I stopped thinking about others. I started thinking about the fact that I've done a lot of work and I'm happy. I've got my college, I got my next steps in place. I had a great meet. I had a great high school swim meet. I'm all happy, and everyone at high school is all singing my name and my praises. So what's there to lose here? So yeah, I got out of my own way, and it helped allow me to get to what I saw as success. And again, I'd love to bring up I did not win. Oh, all right, so let's get into how you create the groundwork or path to being successful or happy. Happiness really is just a non-contradictory state of joy. And I love to steal quotes from a guy named Richard Bach. That may have been someone else, but still. I love that quote because it establishes a parameter. And to be able to achieve something, you do need to be able to set parameters. And I would like to say the best, maybe the only way to really achieve this happiness is to clearly define a core value, goals, and a core purpose. I think, and as simple as it sounds, I think those are the three basic things you need to start addressing daily. And it's not easy. I know it sounds very simple, but oftentimes a simple task is not an easy task. And I think that definitely gets missed when you listen to a motivational speaker or just a really good sales teacher like the person before me. I absolutely love that. And I agree with so much of it in my sales as well. I mean, it absolute great stuff. So I'll be the first to admit too, that these three, the values, goals, and purpose are stuff that I need to work on heavily. They're not something I'm just some master at. It's just something I think I've developed a strong understanding of, at least conceptually. As I said before, my high school 1,000 was probably the best race I ever did in my life, but I kept swimming for 5 years after that. So I didn't get control of it, and I would say I don't have control of it now. But every time I do follow this little path that I'm about to give you with these three simple things tasks you can do to help produce happiness and successfulness. So let's get into it. Value. What is value? I'd say value is the core value is something that we pursue for the sake of its self, the reason that drives us. That core value is an end in and of itself. It is your purpose. It is, well, sorry, not purpose. I don't want to use that. That is your value. That is what the object that gives you the ability to take action, the core value to decide how to act, how to make rational decisions, and really how to devote your time, how to focus your time, organize it correctly to make sure you achieve success and happiness. If you don't have those values defined, how can you decide what path is the one to go? How can you judge when you don't really have a base of values to base a judgment on? Value is a very core concept when it comes to internal happiness and success. But I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on these because I don't have a lot of time. And if I were to do a bigger talk on this, I would probably spend a little bit more time and hopefully open it up to Q&A and everything like that. But let's move on to goals. Everyone's heard of different strategies for goals. Everyone has an idea of what goals are. The focus of a goal should be the quality. the quality of the goal and whether or not it contradicts any of your values. It must mesh with your values. If it doesn't, then you need to either reevaluate a value or your goal and make sure they are in line with each other. Your brain has enough trouble fighting off negative thoughts as it is. You don't need to tear it in two different directions with your goals and your values not matching together. But again, you can't figure that out unless you've defined your values, and now come up with some goals. I'm going to quote Richard Bach. I know I mentioned his name. Richard Bach is an incredible writer. I love a lot of his books. He's written things like Illusions and Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I don't know if any of you have read them. If you haven't, please do. It's phenomenal. He's a very spiritual man. I love his concepts of things. But there's a quote that he has that I really think speaks to goals and the incredibleness of the human spirit and mind. That quote is, "No matter how qualified or deserving we are, we will never reach a better life until we can imagine it and allow ourselves to have it." I mean, think about how perfect that is to what we're speaking about today. The core concept of goals being your imagination and being able to picture it for yourself. It's hard sometimes to create goals because it's hard sometimes to figure out, okay, where do I want to be when I'm doing this? What does this do towards the next chapter of my life or the next day or my value system? I think that was an incredible quote that goes towards goal setting and also kind of gets back to that concept of getting out of your own way, with him stating at the very end just perfectly, hey, set goals to have imaginations for yourself, but hey, allow yourself to have it, because it's a very common thing. People love to get in their own ways. I do it all the time still, even though I have a pretty solid understanding that it happens and a pretty good idea of how to get around it. It happens to everyone, guys. Always. Elon Musk has it happen to him, I'm sure, on a different level because he's, up there on this spectrum. But hey, not all of us are on there. I certainly am not. I don't have that work ethic, and it's not something I want to push for. Let's go to purpose. Again, because my purpose is not to move the world in massive ways like Elon Musk's is. A centralized purpose can keep all aspects in your life organized. And the most important way to organize it is relative importance, right, to your code of values or your organization hierarchy of values. Only way to really control your life is to have purpose, to solidify your values, almost as a checking mechanism. But always having those two kind of talking back and forth will help you have those goals guided. It'll be a lot easier to plan those goals out and really put the things together of the strategies that we've all heard before in our lives about how to set goals. So guys, this is something that sounds real simple, right? I mean, just 3 little things that you just, hey, if I sit down and do this, it should be pretty simple. But again, like I said before, oftentimes simple things, simple tasks are daunting, or we let them get on top of us, get in our own way. And then even if it is just a simple task, that does not mean it's easy. You have life in the way. A lot of us have kids. A lot of us have multiple jobs just because we like to do that or need to. So yeah, life gets in the way. Things are hard to organize and stuff, but with these 3 core concepts, I believe you can keep everything organized well enough for you to really move forward and identify what you want and what makes you truly happy. Now let's get into the concept of getting out of your own way. I do believe there's one pretty simple reason that we tend to get in our own ways. And I don't mean only one. I just mean for this talk and for what I kind of focus on and what I've spent a few months and maybe even a year or so just kind of thinking about. It's expectations. I've noticed a lot in my personal life, in business, and in my coaching expectations can be an incredibly powerful tool for you. But more often than not, they're actually the tool that takes you down. When you have expectations on things you can't control. Now, granted, I'm good at talking to people. I'm good at helping them see something and then, having a conversation, even if we're arguing. Someone's right, someone's wrong. Well, I learn or he learns, one winner, but we both move forward. Too often, someone goes into a conversation with the expectation, if I can do this, this, and this, and this, I'll get this response. How can you possibly think that? Nobody's up here with you. No one can fully predict your responses. So why would you put any expectation on other people when everything you need to be successful and happy is in those three core concepts that I just discussed? In fact, that's what I love to talk about. Those three core concepts: value, goals, and purpose. Not one of those cores is in relation to other people. Now, granted, I don't mean that there's not other people around and that you don't care about them or help them. What am I doing here? I have a lot of thoughts that go into this. So, and I really wanted to share it with people because I really like the idea of being able to help that out. So it doesn't mean other people cannot be a part of this. What I mean is to live the successful life, you have to define these values for yourself, in yourself. And with that, expectations on other people or inanimate objects that you cannot control is a surefire way to fail at success and happiness. One of the same thing. And along with the expectations of other people, that bleeds into competition, that bleeds into goal setting. So many people look at their neighbor and see what they have and say, I want that or better than that, because competition's always been around with all of our sports and stuff. A big trap is setting that goal around other people, whatever that may be. I need to beat them. I need to match them. I need to do this. Regardless, define your value. Your goals will come to you. Your expectations cannot be fully focused on other people. Desire often gets completely flip-flopped when people are only focused on others around them. It becomes a desire to win rather than a desire to achieve. And how could winning mean anything on its own? Just on the flip side, if you achieve what your goal was, which is, to better yourself in your sport, to reach more people in your sales job, to just, have more touches to potentially help more people, whatever the case may be, the desire has to be to achieve that, not to outdo someone else. Because again, you can't control what they're going to do. All you can do is control what you're going to do. I don't mean competition is bad. I loved competition. I loved race guys. I loved watching Daniel race me. Sorry, the guy in the 1,000 who beat me. I loved watching him come up on me. I was trying as hard as I could to race him and beat him, but he just had too much on me. Competition can be great. It brings out the best in people. It's an incredible tool. But that cannot be the measurement of success, of your happiness. The last thing I really want to talk about as far as how to make sure you're setting yourself up for the best option to define values, define your goals, define your purpose is by something that's actually probably the hardest, but sounds the most simple. No one likes to be bored, yet all of us can think of it and say, yeah, I'm bored quite often. I would say boredom is almost our body's way of telling us that, hey, I'm hungry to learn and grow. I think our mind is an inner loving, creative, ever learning beast inside of us. I think that's what thrives it. Boredom often can be great. It's a way to relax. It's a way to unwind. I play video games. I like to watch TV, and I like to watch movies. I mean, those are three of my favorite things in the world. But how often have we gone to one of our boring aspects, watching TV, watching movies, do anything that you might want to do? I play guitar. So sometimes just none of that really sits, right? And you sit there and you're like, man, this isn't holding my attention. This isn't what I want to do. And then you find yourself saying, I'm bored. I will say that is the time. Did I run out of time?
You're right there.
I'm sorry. I told you I could talk for an hour. But that I would say that would be the time that your brain is asking for the most growth. What I tell my swimmers, and I told myself as a swimmer, those days I got in the water in practice and it was smooth, easy, I was hitting my times and all this stuff, or the day I came into practice and I was exhausted and I really had to push as hard as I could to even come close to those times. Which of those 2 days do I get better? Which of those 2 days am I really getting better and getting ready for that national championship? The day that I'm having to extrally work hard, the day that I don't feel good, I don't want to be there and I have to push. So my challenge this week, really, because there's a lot of stuff, and I would love for my motivational speeches to be a little bit different than everyone else's, for you to be able to go home and be able to quantify it, not have it slip hour by hour, everything I said that you liked, or if there was anything you liked. However, I think one of the biggest things you can do is when you feel that little boredom in the next couple of weeks, or just, focus and say, I'm going to have a fiction book near me. And I'm going to grab it when I'm in that position where my video game doesn't suffice, where my movie doesn't suffice, my TV show doesn't suffice. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to spend 30 minutes reading, because what that does is forces you to cut out the rest of the world, read letters on a page that will immerse you into a story. That is not boredom. That is called development. That is called training. And that is one of the best ways to help organize your brain and give it what it needs. The second thing I really do want you to work on is reframing some of those thoughts in your head. Waking up in the morning not feeling well. It happens to me a lot. I usually say, okay, what do I need to do to make myself feel better, rather than, oh my God, why do I feel this bad? How am I going to get through my day? So read and reframe some of your thought processes from negative to a more positive light. All right, there we go.
Yes.
I could get into a lot more of each one, more definitions. I didn't really want to go too far into defining each individual term. I just wanted to touch on it and let people kind of get an idea of where my mind is at. I don't know if I did a great job for you guys or not. Just wanted to give it a shot.
Actually, Austin, in fact, you did an amazing job. And one of the things that I really got, I guess, summed up from what you were saying was that you can talk yourself into something, you can talk yourself out of something, and it's so important for us to be conscious of the voice that we're listening to, and even what we are agreeing with, because oftentimes we have voices in our head that are telling us what we can't do it, and how bad we are and how not good enough we are. But we need to take an active role in, literally talking to ourselves, speaking to ourselves. And that's what I actually heard you say, even in that meet that you were talking about, and about how, although you were in a place of serenity, if you will. In fact, when you actually swam that race, it wasn't one that was overly anxious. It wasn't one that was stressful. And even though you didn't win, you won by not winning. And here's what I mean by that. Just by getting to that place, getting to that state of serenity, you are now able to teach other people that same thing.
Yes,
instead of teaching.
And that is, I've spent the last 9 years coaching my old high school team, because that was one of the biggest things that I attribute to my success and my happiness, is discovering that early on. And I gave that to swimming. So I wanted to make sure I could get back to that. And then there's more stories I have about me realizing I was actually a better coach than I was a swimmer. which actually happened the same year, just a couple months before. I helped train the freshmen on my team to break my state record the next season. So, and I realized how proud of them I was with it. So like, even then I realized I love coaching. I love helping people get out of their own way. But yeah. And just so you know, my coach felt the same way as you in that 1,000 free. He was an Olympic coach and he was a very hard coach. He threw chairs at me at points. Like he was a crazy man, but I loved him because he's what I needed. He even told me at the end of it, hey, you kind of let him catch up to you, swam on his side of the lane and gave him a drag. But wow, Austin, that was the best race I've ever seen you do. And I don't know how many times that man complimented me. So
it's the journey. It's the journey.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so much more than beating other people. And I still face it to this day. I try to get people to understand that, yes, competition is phenomenal. Competition is great. But it is not about beating other people. That can't fill you with the joy that you need. The joy that you need has to come from within. And other people aren't within.
Yeah.
That is the truth. It absolutely is. So tell us how we can get in contact with you.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I have Facebook. We're developing this website because of Brenda. I'm very excited about that. I am on Instagram. I'm trying to get more active with Facebook, Instagram, social media stuff. I'm 32, so I should be really involved with it, but I never have been. I've just really never gotten into it, but I'm really starting to try to make an effort. I can also put my cell phone number in my email in the comments, and people can reach out to me anytime. You know, right now I still sell point of sale and credit card processing to restaurants to try to help them, you know, get the best system in place. Cause you know, the point of sale is the brain of the operation. And I want to make sure these guys have the best opportunity they can. Cause I love food and I love restaurants.
Yep. So, I hear you there. Me too.
Yeah. So I provide that at the moment and I don't see any reason to stop it. I just want to do this as well. Cause I want to be able to spread as much goodness out there as I can.
It's not what you do, it's how you do it, right?
Oh,
and
that is one of my favorite lines.
It really doesn't matter as long as you're happy, no matter what.
Exactly. It's absolute. It's absolute. And that line for me came from a movie called Across the Universe, which is just one of my favorite movies. And the way he says, it's not what you do, but the way that you do it is just absolute. And it hit me so hard. And that's part, you know, it was around the same time that movie came out in like 2009 or 10. I was a senior in high school in 2009. So it was all kind of around the same time that I just started absorbing all of this. And I absolutely love it. It's just something I can talk for hours, as you can see.
Well, I think people who can speak, yes, that is true. And if there's a microphone nearby, sometimes we have to hide it from speakers.
Yes, and the more you guys get to know me, the more you'll realize, okay, Austin, this isn't the time.
Well, with our group, you'll get told that.
All the time. I'll start talking to the boys, and I get into this little thing, and he's like, no. We're at the meet. We don't need this right now.
That's right. Well, thank you, Austin, for coming. It's been a treat. Hope to see you again in one of our events, one of our virtuals, one of our masterminds again soon. Thank you very much. Yep. Talk to you later.
Thank you for the opportunity, guys.
You bet.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Well, there we go. Me and operator error here is hitting success.
It's life, Brenda. It's life.
It is. But you know, he said something about reading. So I got a little something. For you.
Okay.
That was my book. He said fiction.
Okay.
You know,
all right.
People ask me all the time, why do you write fiction? Because it gets me out of the real world. And it allows me to imagine and to escape. Right. And there was a time where all I had was books to keep my mind occupied. And I never really read fiction up until then, but it's kind of like your own personal movie. So he's right. And you're reading, you're still exercising the brain. So it's always a good thing. Always a good thing. All right. So our next guest, now I know him personally. I've met him on a couple occasions. He is going to do a lunch and learn with us for the event in St. Louis, February 17th through the 19th. You can go on over to comechangeyourlife.com to get those tickets. Powerful event. Powerful event. But Brian Ashworth has overcome unthinkable things. He lives to encourage and teach others to do the same as an entrepreneur. He is a speaker, a coach, and in February of 2021, he faced the most recent life challenge when he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. And he says that completely transformed his approach to life. Now he's not helping others discover their passion if he's not helping them to discover their passion. He wants to see them live an extraordinary life, and he wants to help you do that. We all need help. I don't care who we are. And if you don't need help, maybe you need to go get some counseling, because we can always be better. And if you think you're already where you're going to be for the rest of your life, let me tell you, things can happen to you in a heartbeat that's going to change your outlook. And you sometimes don't have control over it. So he's always helping people. And he loves spending time with his two dogs, Hannah and Jackson. So let's welcome Brian Ashworth.
How you doing, Brian? How's it going today?
Oh, you're muted. It still says you're muted.
There we go.
There you
All
go.
right.
How about that?
That's okay. That is okay.
Hey, Bryn, we've got a lot of princes in this community. What's going on?
Well, we have princes getting ready to be kings.
Amen to that.
There you go.
Tony, it's good to meet you, my friend.
Same here. Good to meet you, Brian. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh gosh. Well, we don't have all day, but
A little bit.
I've been, as Bryn said, I've been through. I frame it this way: valley of the shadow of death and back, and I'm very grateful for those experiences, because those experiences have formed and fashioned me to the man that I am today. And that's what's empowered me. You know, the paradox is the things that we think disqualify us in the market and in life, those are the things that qualify us to raise the next generation. And so that's where my passion is. And so I love sharing my story and getting into detail and getting into the weeds and really just challenging people to confront who they are, to live the best version of themselves. So
you ready
I
to
could
tell
spend
us
all
how?
day with you having that conversation. Huh?
You ready to tell us how?
I'm gonna give you a nugget today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna go down, and the stage is yours, all you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Brian Ashworth, and let me just say, it is really a privilege for me to be able to speak to you this morning. I'm glad you're here. If you watch later, I'm glad you're watching. Let me just take a moment, and I just want to pause and thank the BTBY host, the community, for just having the privilege to speak into your life today. If I were going to put a title to this talk, I would probably title it Hell in the Hallway. And here's what I mean. I'd like to frame that to you by just giving you a small piece of my origin story. My life begins in 1976 at a hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where my father enters the room from the hallway to tell my mom that he doesn't want to be a dad. He's not ready to pursue a life with her. And so he exits left into the hallway to pursue his life with another woman. Now, of course, I don't remember this event because I was just born and entered through my open door called life. But as I got older and as I continued to hear this narrative repeated back to me, and I began to kind of frame that event for myself, it developed a nagging question deep in my soul. Why didn't my dad want me? What's wrong with me? A year later or so, my mom remarries my stepdad, who would later adopt me. and things seemingly were fine. But I remember when my first sibling was born, I was about 4 years old. And that's when I began to notice things. I think I'm being treated a little bit differently. And I'm not talking about the newness of a newborn baby and kind of that neglect that you might expect and we all might be accustomed to. No, as time went on, I was really treated differently. I really felt like I was literally the proverbial redheaded stepchild. And in my experiences growing up, when that was confronted, all hell broke loose in that hallway. And I remember hiding in my room, tucked into a corner, covering my ears, trying to drown out that hell that was erupting in that hall. And as hard as I tried, I could never muff the own hell going on in my own mind that was screaming that it was all my fault. And so years later, I'm standing in the hallway outside a classroom. It's my third grade class, and my mom and my teacher. And I overhear my mom tell my teacher that my dad, my biological father, was parking in a parking lot across from the playground at the school. And she was afraid he was going to kidnap me. And those words they just sunk deep down into my soul. And every day after that at recess, I would run to that fence. And I gripped that chain link fence so hard, my knuckles turned white. And I would scan every car, looking for a man. And I didn't know what he looked like. All these questions running through my head. Is that my dad? What does he look like? Does he want me now? And never met him. You see, the series of hallways of our lives, they continue and help develop and inform our life story. And I bet most of you have heard the expression, when one door closes, another door opens. And that phrase has inspired many people, but I think it's easy to overlook the in-between. And that's the hallway. Because you see, in my experience, my open doors are usually across the hall. And that journey across the hall, I encounter hell. That's where I run into my bullies. And I'm afraid. The hall is hard. But I think we take it for granted. And for me, I wanted to get rid of the hall. I remember that 5 minutes between class times, going from class to class in high school, I dreaded that 5 minutes. I never knew what was going to happen. Is today the day that I'm going to get jumped by my bully? Is something going to happen? Am I going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time? I dreaded the 5 minutes in the hallway. And sometimes we just want to eliminate that part out of our life. But those moments, those are the moments that prepare us. I think what's worse is sometimes we decide it's just too hard. And we choose to live our life in the hallway. And we forfeit the reward of our open door. I want to ask you a question this morning. Are you living in your own hallway? Think about that for a minute. Have you given up and pitched your tent? Have you resounded that this is as good as it's ever going to get? And said, I'm just going to slide through life. I'm not going to decide my life anymore. I don't think that's you. Because you're here. You're here because there's a voice inside of you that knows better. So I want to invite you this morning into a conversation with that part of you. And as you're having a conversation with that part of you, I want to give you 3 questions to ask yourself. That I believe if we get really honest and we start peeling back this onion, The answers to these questions can empower you to get up, exit left out of your own hallway, and walk through the open door you've been waiting to walk through for a very long time. So I'm going to give you the 3 questions. Question 1, what's your story? Second question, who are you? And the third most important question, I believe, are you ready? So I'm going to ask you these 3 questions, and let's begin with the first question. What's your story? Now, before we begin to answer that, I want to be a little bit more specific. Because here, I'm not asking you what's happened to you. Here's what I am asking you. What is the story that you're telling yourself about yourself in context of those experiences? Listen to me for just a second. Because if you don't get anything else out of what I say today, I need you to get this part right here. Are you listening? What you think is true is often a story about the truth. What you believe is true is often a story about the events that's happened in your life. What you believe about yourself now is often a story about what you believed about yourself a long time ago. Did you get that? Let me repeat it. What you think is true is often a story about the truth. And what you believe is true is often a story about the events that's happened in your life. And what you believe about yourself now, today, in this moment, is often a story about what you believed about yourself a very long time ago. Now, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I am in no way discounting, invalidating, discrediting in any way the events in your life or how they may have impacted you. Those things are real. It is true that my biological father abandoned me and my mother. It is true that I was treated differently than my siblings. Those things are true. But as a result of the story and the narrative that I framed around those events, I lived most of my life and all of my childhood believing that I wasn't loved or good enough. And I overcompensated by trying to prove my worth and earn my acceptance through good grades, being the best all I could be. I wanted to be the best all I can be, which probably explains why I joined the Army at 16 years of age. But you see, it was my father's choice to leave, and it was my father's choice to treat me differently. And it took me a long time to realize that that's a reflection of them. And they never told me those things. They never said, Brian, you're not lovable. Brian, you're horrible. Or they never said any of those things. I framed that narrative around that event. And I took on and personalized every story that I heard about those events. And I made them about me. Now think about that for a minute. I made it about me. Someone might call that selfish or arrogant or conceited. But I think in the context, it's easy to set those things aside because we want to feel heard or we want to be validated. But even if he had said those things to me, it's still a reflection of them. You see, it's hard to divorce ourselves from the stories and come to realization that we are responsible for the stories that we create and tell ourselves. It reminds me, there's a story of a Chinese farmer. It says, once upon a time, a farmer, his horse ran away. And so one evening, all the neighbors came by and like, oh, dude, that sucks. Your horse ran away. And the farmer was like, maybe. And so the next day, the horse came back, and with it was 7 wild horses. And all the neighbors came around and was like, oh, my God, you're so lucky. Now you've got 8 horses. And the farmer was like, yeah, maybe. And then the next day, his son was out trying to break one of the wild horses, and the horse bucked and threw him off, and the son broke his leg. And so all the neighbors came around like, "Oh my God, how terrible! This is so awful. Your son broke his leg." And the farmer's, maybe. And the next day, war broke out in the land. So the military comes in. They're drafting young men for the army, and they refused the farmer's son because he had a broken leg. And the neighbors were, "Oh, I can't believe it. What's such a great turn of events. Your son is spared. He's going to be alive. He's going to live." And the farmer's like, "Oh, well, yeah, maybe." You see, the point is that the events in our life is just an integrated process of immense complexity. Because it's really impossible to tell that anything that happens in our life, whether it's good or bad, because we never really know what the ultimate consequences are, good or bad. I mean, I could tell you things in my life that I thought were going to be great for me turn out that they were really bad for me, and vice versa. So I've proven that I'm not a good judge of the events in my life. And I've had to learn to rewrite the narrative and the story that I placed on those events. So I want to ask you again, are you willing to change your story? Are you willing to confront the narrative that you've believed about those things in your life? I'm not asking you to pretend they didn't happen. I'm asking you for just a moment to create a little bit of space and challenge if the story you're telling yourself about those events are true. And if you are, then my assessment and guess is that once you get through that process, you're going to find yourself asking a most difficult question. At least it was for me. And that's our second question. And that is, who are you? Because that was a tough question for me. I mean, I was living in the hallway of my performance. I had identified myself with all my achievements. I had the Midas touch. It seemed everything I touched turned to gold. My ego was inflated. And then one day, after a ruthless divorce in my early 20s, my orders for Iraq got deterred to a county jail. My life changed forever. An accusation was made against me, a story created around that. And in an instant, I went from a perceived hero to zero. My identity changed from a decorated soldier to a deflated, despised inmate. And for the first time, I was stripped of everything. My ego was shot. I didn't know who I was. And even though I knew the truth about the event, I struggled and could not seem to shake and let go of the story in my own head, because my story was predicated and founded on in the opinions of everyone else around me. It took me years to divorce myself of the identity from the events and my life experiences and everyone else's opinion of it. As an adult, I'm wrestling trying to answer this question, who am I? Brian, who are you? I'm speechless. Listen, let me ask you this. If you had no memory of all the events in your life, and you couldn't recall anyone else's opinion of you, consider it functional amnesia. And you were stripped of all your successes, your failures, your status, your possessions, positions, everything that has helped create the story in which has defined you. Stripped of all those things, who would you be? What would you do? Where would you live? What kind of friends would you have? What would you believe? What motivates you? Are you willing to take off the mask and be seen for who you truly are? This was hard for me to do. My mask was familiar. I had a collection of them. They served me well until they didn't. But that's the problem, isn't it? They served me. It was comfortable. The problem is, it's temporary. And even more than that, my mask got all the accolades and the acceptance and the love, and I got nothing. And I found myself in a very lonely hallway trying to figure out, who am I? It takes courage to take off that mask. It's vulnerable. It's scary. But you see, that's the paradox that we're going to find ourselves in. It's surrender to win. It's waving the white flag to win the war. It's letting go of who you think you are to become the person that you truly are. And only when we stop fighting the very thing that we desire, only then do we begin to experience it. And if you're willing to do that, then that leads us to our final question, and that is, are you ready? Because this is where the rubber meets the road. I've met so many people along this journey that get to this point. Sadly, they're just not willing to change. I get it. If it were easy, everybody would do this, right? It's not for the faint-hearted. It can be painful to look deep inside yourself and sort through all the rubbish to gain a clear perspective of the present. But I promise you, a clear, healthy perspective of now will better inform your future and empower you toward it. But like I said, it's painful. But so is doing the work to change. So either way, it's going to be uncomfortable, my friends.
It is. It absolutely is. You know, change is hard. And sometimes we get so stuck in our comfort zone because it's easy. And I'm not even going to say comfort zone, because there was a time in my life where I was stuck and it wasn't a comfort zone, right? But I chose to keep my mind there out of the fear of the unknown and what could happen and what might have even been worse than what I was going through at the time. And you do have to sometimes cross that hallway to get to where you need to be. So I absolutely love the analogy of that.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I'm reminded when I was going through cancer, and Bryn, you may run into this too. People say they want to change, but really what they want is they want to commiserate about their pain.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to talk about it. And I remember when I was going through chemotherapy and fighting for my life with cancer, you know, I would see cancer patients and I would overhear conversations. And here's what I observed. They got a lot of attention. And I did too, right? I mean, when your life is on the line and your loved ones think you might be gone, I mean, obviously that stirs conversations you would never, ever have previously, right? But I began to wonder if some of these people even wanted to be healed. Because to be healed would mean letting go of the attention that they were getting. And so sometimes I think the reward, the perceived reward of our suffering is greater than the reward of the change. And so we just choose to settle because that's what's familiar. And so that is
settle with friends. We settle with who we choose our partners to be, because we feel that we're not worth more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, I was going to say, are we more addicted to the attention, or are we more addicted to the healing?
Mm.
Yes. So, Bryn, I'd like to offer everybody watching as just an expression of my gratitude for just taking the courage to listen and be on the call, to be connected with BTBY, becoming the best you, and really pursuing. Some people on here, they might even know what step to take, but they're in the right place, aren't they? I want to offer a free passion assessment, a top 5 passion assessment, and a free 15-minute debrief with me to continue this conversation and to help kind of reposition their compass. And if people want to reach out, I want to make myself available. You guys can reach me at Brian. That's Brian with a Y, Bryan, Brian at thestairwell.org. I think, Bryn, you'll put my contact info in the comments or the chat, as well as the link and the link for the free assessment. Please, please, please contact me and take that. I'd be more than happy to meet with you and walk you through that process.
Yep, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian. And we're going to see you in St. Louis. You're going to do a lunch.
You are. I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm. You're going to touch a little bit more about that in your lunch and learn that you're doing?
I am. We're going to go a bit deeper in that. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you get to see him in person if you want to come on over to the event. And let's see who all's going to be there. Thank you for coming, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
One of the best conferences of the year is finally here, Becoming the Best You Conference. Join us live or virtually and hear from the greatest speakers in the country. Brenda Ringwood, Terrence Lethbridge, Stacy Wahey, Arcavius Armstrong, Dr. Lotus Roche, Regina Platt, Dr. Rick Bolton, Anthony Russo, Chuck Doyle, Dr. Ruben West, Jennifer Lauren, Jessica Mortier, Dr. Jawanda Rollins-Fells, Dr. Lauren Michaels Harris, Indy Nam, Tracy Randolph, Isabel Black, Sarah Minguez, Jill Reynolds, Kevin Wilson, Saccone Prince, Definitely Holly, Chuck Prison, Dr. Michael Freeland, Tommy Morgan, Prince Michael, James Griffin, Charlotte White, Aaron Page, Jeremy Nunez, Jeff Markinet Jr., Belton Showell III. Becoming the Best You Conference, February 17th through the 19th, 2023. Clayton Plaza Hotel, St. Louis, Missouri. Get your tickets today.
Well, there we go. I want to show a little clip about our concert that we're going to be having on Saturday night with
Yes.
Jennifer Lauren. She is the female vocalist of the year for the Carolinas 2 years in a row.
Wow.
And she's coming to share her story. She's going to perform. Amazing woman. She's had health struggles. She's older, so being in the community of 20-year-olds trying to make it, she's almost 40 and she's rocking the house. Let's see a little bit about her. And there you have it. I can't wait to hear her.
I can't wait to experience not just her singing and her performance, but her story, because I know it's going to be life changing. See, the thing about coming to events like this is that, knowing how to have that proper balance of, education as well as entertainment and also community, being able to actually connect with people. I mean, it makes for a memorable experience and one that you can take with you. It's not stuff that you could do one day, but stuff you can start day one. And so I am super excited to be a part of such amazing.
Yes, it is. It's powerful. Everything that I learn something every time. And I had to catch myself because I was emceeing. I'm having to monitor the time, and I was so engrossed in some of the speakers that I had to get back to doing my job. Almost missed my own cue, and that's how good these speakers are. They are
Right.
just phenomenal. And we have a pretty good speaker coming up now. Her name is CJ Grace. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a former BBC journalist and public speaker. She's the author of the humor self-help book Adulter's Wife and How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not. So I'm sure she's had some experience in that, right? She's also got a book called My Wild Ride, How to Thrive After Breast Cancer and Infidelity. So 2 touchy subjects there. She's a candid comic. It's a candid comic memoir, an uplifting cancer survival guide. So, man, there's 3 of us on the show today that's had cancer. So that's 50%. Those aren't good numbers at all. So this lady had a double whammy. She discovered that her husband had an affair shortly after being diagnosed with cancer. Can you imagine the mindset that she was going through? And she's got these plans in place to help people overcome that. She speaks about it. She teaches about it. She's got books about it. So welcome to the stage, CJ Grace.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you.
Think that going through adversity is the route to BTBY, becoming the best you, because it's through adversity that you realize you can change and you can actually make your life better than before. It sounds like a cliche, but it's actually true.
It is true, which is why it's a cliche, because before it can become a cliche, it has to be said, it has to be witnessed, right? So yes. And, I tell people, we were talking about fiction books a minute ago. Somebody said that he was reading. There's always some truth in fiction too. So cliche or not, look for the truth in it. Look for the truth in it. So
Right.
CJ, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I had been living a charmed life. I had my dream job as a journalist with the BBC in Britain. There I was meeting celebrities, politicians, and fascinating people who were making their mark on the world. And then I got a transfer to work for China Radio International in Beijing. And I had a fairy tale falling in love with an American I met there. And so if you'd like me to continue, I can tell you the whole story and exactly what I did to get through that double whammy that you spoke about.
Are you going to talk about that today in your session?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Because I've got a 6-part plan that I use to help me get through that deep, dark pit of devastation. And I think it can be used for any kind of adversity. I also found out a lot of stuff about breast cancer. And some of the things that I found out, I think, could be useful to the 1 in 8 women in America and actually also in the UK, where I come from, who are diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. It's a massive epidemic.
It is, and it just is. So I have to ask you a question before we turn it over to you. So you've got this accent, you explained where you're from, but you don't live there anymore. So it's bright and early where you are. Where are you at?
I'm fortunate enough to be streaming live from Hawaii. And although you can see behind me, it's the Matterhorn. I have been there. It's the Matterhorn behind me, but I'm really in Hawaii, and I'm very grateful to be here. It's a lovely place to be. I also spend time in California, but I am actually quite grateful that I'm no longer living in England and I am here.
Oh, well, welcome to America. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. You guys listen up, because sometimes we think things are never going to happen to us. It's not going to happen to me. But let me tell you, things do happen, and they will happen to you. So listen up to what she's got to say.
So I thought I was having the perfect life. And there I was in love with this American guy working for China Radio International in Beijing. I just transferred there from having had my dream job as a journalist with the BBC in Britain. And fast forward to our 25th wedding anniversary. Well, that was the best one ever, spent in Hawaii. And little did I know that just 2 years later, both my marriage and my health would be in tatters. My husband was openly carrying on an affair with a woman half his age whom he refused to give up. And then I got breast cancer. And it was a double whammy that left me reeling. So my humorous self-help book, Adulterer's Wife, How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not, was inspired by dealing with the emotional roller coaster that infidelity put me on. My staunch belief that the best revenge is to actually get past the need for revenge was the mantra of that book. And I didn't really think I had another book in me, but getting cancer was the trigger for me to begin writing another one, My Wild Ride, How to Thrive After Cancer and Infidelity. That's My Wild Ride, How to Thrive After Breast Cancer and Infidelity. So when I called him out about that infidelity, my husband offered me a part-time wife position. Seriously, he did. I'm perfectly capable of loving 2 women at once, he declared. I'd be happy spending 2 or 3 days a week with her and the rest of the week with you. You know, I actually considered that proposal for several months, trying to get my head around it. Then I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was for the second time. I carried the dreaded BRCA gene, the BRCA gene, that Angelina Jolie had believed could be a death sentence. While I was going through chemotherapy, my husband was in Europe with his girlfriend. It was obvious I'd never be able to stomach a part-time husband. I had to let him go. Yet for my peace of mind, for my health, I needed to forgive both him and his girlfriend, because hanging on to that resentment was draining my energy. The last thing I needed undergoing cancer treatment. I wasn't going to let my husband treat me like a doormat anymore, but I needed to truly forgive him to break the emotional hold that he had on me. When we discover our partner's been cheating on us, it's so easy to fall into the trap of playing the blame game and plotting vengeance. Revenge is the opposite of forgiveness. Forgiveness allows us to move on and reclaim joy in our lives. And as I said, the best revenge is to get past the need for it. And I'm going to explain exactly why. I heard about a contractor who was so angry about his wife's infidelity that he filled her car with cement. Everybody laughs when I tell them that story. Quite impressive. Fill your cheating partner's car with cement. But where does a couple go from there? Definitely not reconciliation, and most likely an expensive, acrimonious divorce. After all, 1 minute, a partner is the love of your life. And then when you find out they've been cheating, they become an evil demon. But it's the same person, someone whom in the past you may have had a good life with, and you may have had children together. Rather than vilifying my husband, I tried to remember that he was the same flawed human being all along, with good points that originally drew me to him in the first place, and bad points that made me now want to consider leaving the marriage. Revenge is toxic. I knew it would be counterproductive for me to get stuck in that kind of negativity. Instead, I wanted to spend my life energy working on the best way to move forward so that I could thrive whether I chose to stay or go. My aim was to become a more complete, creative, and joyful person, with or without a partner. Of course, I knew this wasn't going to be easy to do. We humans are emotional rather than purely rational beings. But after discovering my partner's infidelity, making spur-of-the-moment decisions based on my feelings wasn't a wise idea. I tried to wait till I'd calmed down somewhat and felt more on an even keel. Whatever choices and actions I considered doing, I tried to remember to first stop, take a breath, and ask myself, is this serving my own long-term best interests? Nevertheless, I can't deny that finding out the man I'd believed to be my soulmate and partner for life was in love with someone else dropped me into a deep, dark pit of devastation. I'm not a marital guidance counselor or a psychotherapist, but nevertheless, I found myself developing a 6-part program to help me get off that emotional roller coaster and stop feeling like hell. It incorporated some of the advice I received from good friends who did work in the counseling field. I've used my program to get through both infidelity and breast cancer, and it can help people cope with the emotional impact of almost any kind of adversity. And the sequence of these 6 steps I'm going to tell you are arbitrary. You can work on them in any order, and like me, you may find yourself doing more than one at the same time. So here are the 6 steps. Number 1, find confidants and mentors. You need confidants and mentors with your best interests at heart. They could be friends or paid counselors. Try to have at least one who's of the opposite sex to you, as you might get useful insights that are very different from those of same-sex confidants. I learned I had to choose carefully. I wanted to be able to vent my deepest, darkest feelings to people whom I could trust would be true confidants, and they'd keep things confidential. I couldn't do that with everybody I knew. Some of my friends would have been turned off or at least uncomfortable if I'd spewed a load of negativity at them. Others were only interested in the gossip value of my breakup story, and most likely would have passed on my private, intimate details to their whole circle. Number 2, build a community of old and new friends. Cultivate existing and new connections who are friends of your own rather than friends of your spouse. I realized that during a course of a marriage that spanned 3 decades, I'd let go of most of my own close friends from college and journalism days. So much so that one dear friend of mine from England had thought she'd done something to offend me because I hadn't responded to her emails. I was too wrapped up in taking care of my husband, the small business we owned, and my children. And almost everybody I socialized with was either a friend of my husband's or was connected to our joint business. And of course, it would have been very unprofessional to have discussed his infidelity with any of these people. So I made it a priority to reconnect with all my old friends and try to meet new people, both male and female. The aim was to build friendships and community rather than finding another relationship, because I wanted to avoid rushing into a desperate rebound affair. Number 3, laughter therapy. I made an effort to hang out with people who made me laugh rather than brought me down, and I watched comedies rather than depressing dramas. And despite being a former BBC journalist, I gave up watching the news because it's all about bad news. Good news is rarely as exciting as a tragedy. Growing up in Britain, I was brought up on Monty Python's Flying Circus, which helped me notice the absurd humor of my situation, whatever was happening. And if you don't laugh, you cry. And I'd much rather laugh. That's why I fill the self-help books I write with cartoons and a lot of humor. There's even an Indian practice called laughter yoga to promote health and well-being. It combines yoga, breathing techniques with laughter exercises. Sounds like a good idea, but I would rather laugh naturally from good conversations with entertaining people and from watching comedies without having to force anything. Seeing humor in your everyday existence isn't the same thing as always cultivating a positive attitude. That's hard to manufacture. I can think of 1 or 2 people who sternly insisted I must stay positive when I was dealing with my breast cancer, who themselves manifested bucket loads of negativity when problems arose in their own lives. Yes, do whatever you can to keep your spirits up, but don't ever feel bad about feeling bad. Each side of the positive thinking debate has research to support it. For example, some studies show a positive attitude helps cancer recovery, while others indicate that positive thinking doesn't improve the outcome. It's impossible to be positive all the time, especially faced with setbacks like a failing marriage, breast cancer, or being in pain. But laughter can take your mind off your difficulties. American political journalist Norman Cousins was immobile and in extreme pain from a condition called ankylosing spondylitis that doctors thought he would never recover from. He watched stuff like Marx Brothers films and Candid Camera and discovered that just 10 minutes of induced hearty laughter would give him about 2 hours of painless sleep. Eventually, he became almost completely pain-free. Number 4 in my 6-part plan, love your body and become beautiful. Here, I don't mean that I try to turn myself into a stunning supermodel. Sadly, that would be an impossible task. I'm talking more about developing internal beauty by getting enough sleep, eating well, and exercise to get healthier and banish the blues. The standard cliche in movies of a woman who, there she is, she's just been dumped by her man and she's totally depressed, lying in bed all day, watching TV and eating ice cream from the carton. You know, that's probably the worst thing you can do to stop feeling like hell. I found outdoor exercise, especially with friends, to be a very effective antidepressant. I was staunchly opposed to taking medications for that, even though I have to tell you, when I was going through cancer, the doctors were very keen to offer me antidepressants and sleeping pills. No, thank you. One friend of mine was suffering from such a bout of crippling sadness that she could barely get out of bed in the morning. I persuaded her to force herself to get up first thing and start her day spending just 15 minutes walking in nature in a local park. She told me that adding this simple routine to her life dramatically boosted her mood. Number 5, find your passion. Work out what you're passionate about and become more of a hedonist. And when I use the word hedonist, I'm not advocating irresponsible behavior that won't serve you in the long run or a sex and drugs and rock and roll type lifestyle. Instead, it's about making time to do things you enjoy rather than constantly keeping your nose to the grindstone. Think about what activities make your heart sing. Your passion could be art, a musical instrument, writing a book, or volunteering for a cause that you really believe in. If you've always wanted to play the saxophone in a band, I'm not recommending you should drop your day job to try to make a living as a musician, but that you should carve out some free time to at least develop playing the instrument as a hobby. Women in particular tend to put a lot of focus on serving their families and make little time for themselves. Despite the rise of feminism, it's still a common story that working wives come home at the end of the day to cook dinner, clean up, and take care of the children while their husbands relax in front of the TV. When we were married, my ex, he worked hard at his job, but never involved himself in domestic chores or child-rearing duties. After I discovered his latest affair, I came to realize that I'd sublimated my entire personality into serving his needs at the expense of mine. I needed to focus on finding my passion and engaging in activities that brought me joy. For me, that was writing. And I combined my background as a journalist with my love of absurd humor, and my first book, Adulterer's Wife, How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not, was born. Number 6, the last point, develop mindfulness. The past is gone and the future doesn't exist. Now is all there is. So I worked at trying to live in the present and become more mindful, fully engaged in what I was doing right now. This was probably the most difficult of all the steps for me, and it's still a work in progress. Although no specific religious belief is necessary, a meditation practice and or some kind of spiritual faith can be extremely helpful to work towards achieving true mindfulness. Infidelity and adversity and all kinds of problems, all kinds of setbacks, those can create a lot of soul searching, making us yearn to discover that there's more to life than what we've experienced up to the present moment. And one benefit of dealing with life setbacks is that they can act as a catalyst to propel us further in our spiritual development. When everything is staying the same and going fairly well, we tend not to bother to ask ourselves the deep questions that lead to personal growth. Nevertheless, whether someone's atheist, agnostic, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Taoist, religious or not religious, learning how to become more mindful is an extremely valuable skill. Even without having to deal with adversity such as infidelity or cancer, It's very easy to spend our lives churning over the past, wishing we'd done certain things differently and or worrying about the future, rather than being aware of what is right in front of our nose in the present. In effect, we're on autopilot, missing out on enjoying the beauty of the natural surroundings we may be in, or the pleasant company we may be with, just because our minds are elsewhere. Rather than being fully alive, we're merely existing. The more mindful we are, the more fulfilled and contented our lives become. I describe this 6-part program in more detail in my comic self-help book, Adulterer's Wife, How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not. And I've also put together a free mini ebook called Overcoming Infidelity, Tools to Tame the Roller Coaster of Negative Emotions. It can be downloaded by visiting cjauthor.com. That's cjauthor.com, where you can also find various free resources to help cope with infidelity and cancer. I include a wonderful mindfulness exercise using chocolate, and that one really resonates with me because I'm a lifelong chocoholic. The only thing you need to do it is a wrapped piece of chocolate, which is something I always have on hand. I can't take the credit for inventing the exercise. It's been used in elementary schools in Britain to teach children how to be more mindful. And if kids can do the exercise, so can we adults. So when I was dealing with cancer on top of infidelity, doing that 6-part plan was even more vital for me to retain my sanity. I've already explained that my infidelity mantra was the best revenge is to get past the need for it. Well, my cancer mantra was information is power. Many cancer memoirs are dedicated to staunchly supportive spouses, but not the one I've written about my own experiences, My Wild Ride, How to Thrive After Breast Cancer and Infidelity. If you have breast cancer and your husband doesn't know how to cope, or worse, is unfaithful, he can be more of a millstone than a rock. The more I talked with other breast cancer patients, the more I heard that even a loving and well-meaning husband might have great difficulty dealing with their partner's illness. I knew I couldn't rely on my spouse, and I had to be my own advocate. So I embraced my inner anal BBC journalist and researched my treatment options to the nth degree, which also gave me a lot of material for my book. It's got a lot of comedy in it, but also has an extremely extensive bibliography referencing almost 70 books and over 100 articles and studies. Since I'd had breast cancer twice, once on each side, as well as having the BRCA2 gene, I have to admit that several of my friends, relatives, and probably my surgeon too, thought I was completely nuts to refuse mastectomies. But breast implant illness is very real. Even the FDA, not the speediest of organizations to deal with risky products, has issued warnings about implant safety. Nicole Deruda's Facebook support group, Breast Implant Illness and Healing, to date has over 175,000 members. That's despite a study published in the Aesthetic Journal in September 2022, claiming a major reason women complain about breast implant illness is, wait for it, they're neurotic. Seriously, that study is so bad that it's good in a Monty Python kind of way. As a humorist writer, it was a gift for me and inspired a blog on my cjauthor.com website with the title, Breast Implant Illness, It's All in Your Head, You Neurotic Woman. So go on my website and read that blog. Breast Implant Illness, It's All in Your Head, You Neurotic Woman. Some women are actually choosing to avoid reconstruction surgery altogether and go flat after mastectomies rather than having implants. So, given my own particular circumstances, was I right to go for lumpectomies rather than mastectomies? Whatever the answer is to that question, I still don't regret deciding to hang on to my breasts. Let's hope my tombstone won't read, "Here lies C.J. Grace for refusing to lop off her boobs." When Angelina Jolie's BRCA gene story appeared in the press in 2013, I felt there should have been much more coverage of the ovarian cancer risks faced by those with BRCA gene mutations, rather than focusing only on breast cancer and prophylactic mastectomies. When my gene profile was discovered, I was advised to have my ovaries removed, but I wanted to wait till I'd gone through menopause to avoid being slammed into it artificially. Instead, I regularly had an ultrasound of my ovaries and the CA125 blood test. It's a test that measures a particular cancer antigen protein that's elevated in most ovarian cancer cases. But since there are several other conditions that can cause a high reading, it's only recommended for those with a high risk of ovarian cancer. So 2 years after my first breast cancer diagnosis, I went to a relative's wedding and got talking with an old friend of the family. She told me about 3 women she knew who'd recovered well from breast cancer, but some years later had all died from ovarian tumors. It was a wake-up call for me to get rid of my ovaries and fallopian tubes, and that operation for some strange reason is known as an oophorectomy. Some women with that BRCA gene choose to have a full hysterectomy, but again, I didn't like the potential side effects of that, and I chose to have an oophorectomy instead. I did it once I'd already reached menopause, and after the operation, I noticed little difference in how I felt. Angelina Jolie wasn't so lucky. In 2015, at the age of 39, a CA125 blood test showed anomalies that might indicate an ovarian tumor, so at that point, she had her ovaries removed. Her mother also had a defective BRCA1 gene and was diagnosed with breast cancer. However, it was an ovarian tumor that killed her. So I say again, it's important to look at the ovarian risk if you have the BRCA gene profile. Well, I never burned my bra in the 1960s or 70s, but after getting cancer for the second time, I threw away my bra. Why? Well, one of the many books I read about cancer had an unforgettable title. Here it is, Dressed to Kill, the link between breast cancer and bras. Quite an impressive title. It's written by medical anthropologist Sidney Ross Singer and his wife Soma Grismeyer. They wrote it in 1994 and revised it in 2018. They claim that the link between wearing a bra and breast cancer is stronger than that between smoking and lung cancer. That's a big deal, and they make a convincing case with their research. The authors don't deny that toxins in the modern environment play a major part in creating cancer in humans, but where do toxins collect? In fatty tissue in the body. And where do all we women have fatty tissue? In our breasts. Normally, waste products and toxins would be flushed out by the lymphatic system, but a bra compresses the breasts and the sides of the body near the armpits. The garment also constricts the shoulders where the straps tend to dig in and squeezes the area underneath the breast, particularly if you're wearing an underwire bra. All this compression, according to Singer and Grismeyer, blocks lymph flow so that those toxins stay in the breast, and that can lead to pain, cysts, and tumor growth. So from 1991 to 93, Singer and Grismeyer carried out the bra and breast cancer study, in which 4,730 women from 5 cities in the US were interviewed about their bra usage. Roughly half of the group had been diagnosed with breast cancer. Singer reports, this study concluded that bra-free women have about the same risk of breast cancer as men. While the tighter and longer the bra is worn, the higher the risk rises to 125 times higher for a 24/7 bra user compared to a bra-free woman. Singer and Grismeyer also did research in Fiji, where they say there was apparently no breast cancer at all till women began to wear Western clothing, particularly in the workplace. The Fijian women who began wearing brassieres were the ones who later were diagnosed with breast cancer. Well, if bras can cause cancer, the current practice of gender fluid young girls wearing breast binders are like bras on steroids, and I have grave concerns about the potential health risks of youngsters with developing breasts wearing those breast binders. As a 2-time breast cancer survivor, I wouldn't wish that disease on anybody. And I write more about this issue in a blog on my website entitled, Are Gender Affirming Practices Carcinogenic? So that's on the cjauthor.com website. Take a look at my blog, Are Gender Affirming Practices Carcinogenic? Some powerful stuff in there. A chance meeting with a woman who decades of experience in obstetric nursing and nurse social work, employed in those settings from the 1980s to the early 2000s, gave me insights into yet another problem stemming from the constriction of bras that I haven't seen written about anywhere. She found that young women who'd worn training bras while their breasts were developing tended to have inverted nipples, which made it very difficult for them to breastfeed their babies. Sadly, mainstream cancer groups have not only ignored all the incriminating data against bras, but actively denied it. They've trumpeted a study done in 2014 showing no link between bras and cancer. This research included only postmenopausal women, whom other studies had shown to be less dramatically affected by bra usage than premenopausal women. And more importantly, there was no control group of women who did not wear bras. That's like studying the relationship between smoking and cancer, without including any non-smokers to compare to the smokers. Well, according to the American Cancer Society, the 5-year survival rate of women with non-metastatic early-stage breast cancer is close to 100%. That being said, cancer can be a crapshoot. Whatever treatment you undergo, whether conventional, alternative, or both, there are no guarantees, and my choices may not be appropriate for other people. I'm not a doctor, so I would never want to tell someone else what they should be doing. Yet well-meaning but annoying friends and relatives bombarded me with a great deal of unsolicited advice about my cancer. This inspired the very first cartoon in the introduction of my breast cancer book, and I'm just going to show it to you here. You can probably see some of it. It's called Friendly Advice. And some people, as you saw in that cartoon, they insisted that the chemo and radiation I was undergoing was toxic and wouldn't work. Others told me the complementary therapies I chose to do as well were pure quackery. Then a friend told me to give up dairy or else my cancer would return with a vengeance. No can do. I'm a Brit. Having milk in my tea, real milk and not some fake soy, oat or almond milk concoction, is something I would find just too difficult to give up. One person, who will remain nameless to protect his reputation, angrily declared and shouted at me that the reason I got cancer was because I was too tense and needed to relax. If his aim was to help me relax, shouting at me was not an effective method to achieve this. Naturally, I felt somewhat stressed out and negative at times during the cancer treatment process, and that's a common story for many cancer patients. However, amazingly, I'm still alive. People would get as worked up and evangelical about alternative versus allopathic medicine as folks do about politics and religion. I would have needed more than 72 hours in a day to take up all the anti-cancer stuff people insisted I had to do if I didn't want to keel over and die right away. And most people who go through serious illness find that they get this unsolicited advice the same amount as I did. So, did I make the right decisions? Again, all I can say is, to quote Monty Python, and I have the Spam-A-Lot badge here to prove it, I'm not dead yet. So, if I could wave a magic wand and make that breast cancer and infidelity never have happened, would I do it? You might be surprised to hear me say, no, I don't regret having gone through the experience, bleak and difficult though it was. I'm actually grateful to my ex and his girlfriend. Forgiving them means they don't occupy real estate in my head, and I've got much better things to think about these days. I used to help my husband produce his own books, and now I've written my books, humorous self-help ones about infidelity and breast cancer. As I said, regret is not about the past. It's about the present, and I'm happy with my life as it is now. If I'd gone through the past differently, my here and now wouldn't be the same. So, breast cancer on top of my partner's infidelity taught me that I had an expiration date. and nothing is permanent. I realized viscerally that life is too short to waste on holding grudges and not living the life I wanted to lead. So many people put off doing what they really want to do till tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. On my deathbed, would I care about how tidy my kitchen was, how many emails or posts on social media I'd written? No, I would want to have had a life of love and laughter that was creatively and spiritually fulfilling. I would want to have found purpose on this earth. In my writing and speaking work, I examine how to deal with adversity by using it as a catalyst to raise you up rather than be crushed. Humor plays an important part in that. My aim is to inspire ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances to find ways to make their lives fulfilling, however long or short their time on this earth might be. So I'm CJ Grace, and if you'd like to find out more about me and my work, you can check out my comic self-help book, Adulterous Wife, How to Thrive Whether You Stay or Not, and my new humorous memoir, My Wild Ride, How to Thrive After Breast Cancer and Infidelity. They're both available in paperback and ebook format on Amazon, and I have various resources for you. You can visit my website, cjauthor.com, to download 2 free PDFs. One is Got Breast Cancer, 10 Tips to Stay Sane, and the other one, Overcoming Infidelity, Tools to Tame the Roller Coaster of Negative Emotions. These free mini ebooks can help alleviate negative emotions arising not only from infidelity and breast cancer, but also from adversity of any kind. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a chocoholic and a committed chocoholic. Overcoming Infidelity has a PDF. In that PDF, I've also included the details of how to do an easy and enjoyable mindfulness exercise using chocolate. And there's even a video on my website that you can watch to do that chocolate exercise with me. So visit cjauthor.com and follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at CJ Grace Author. So I hope you found my presentation helpful. And the bottom line is that whatever we've been through, there's always hope. I'm proof of that. And also, so are all the speakers who've been part of this Becoming the Best You Mastermind today, especially BTBY founder Brenda Ringwood. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak today, Brenda.
Oh, thank you for coming. You know, a lot of people don't realize the mindset that you go through when you have cancer. So then you're going through this, and then boom, you find out your spouse is having an affair on top of it. I just can't even imagine, because you don't know if you're going to live or die when you get that kind of news, and all the negativity that's going through your brain. You can't help but think that way. You know, it just is what it is. And I went through it in 2011, so I completely understand it. Didn't find anything out about my spouse having an affair. I just couldn't even imagine finding out that on top of it. But wow. So these books, I'm sure, are going to help a lot of people. You know, there's also people who their spouses divorce them when they find out they have cancer or an illness. And
that's so true, because I've done a lot of podcasts about the new book, My Wild Ride, How to Thrive After Breast Cancer and Infidelity. And it's unusual because it puts that connection between infidelity and breast cancer. And it is a strong connection both ways. Infidelity can lead to breast cancer, and breast cancer can lead to infidelity.
yes.
I remember talking to a former breast surgeon, and he said that he'd come across many cases where, you know, the women find their marriages collapse because it's too much for their husbands to handle.
Yeah. And sometimes it's easier to walk away than to deal with it.
Yeah. And women are natural caregivers. And there was a study by Michael Glantz that showed gender disparity in partner abandonment during serious illness. And it found, I think, that there was, in some circumstances, a 12 times greater likelihood for men to leave their sick wives than the other way around.
Yeah.
Shocking stuff.
Yes. And you know, sometimes people equate it to, oh, they're selfish. They didn't really love you. And although that might be true, sometimes though, maybe they just didn't know how to deal with it, and they couldn't watch you go through it. I don't know what the reasons are. I'm not excusing it at all, but I mean, I would stick by my spouse. My spouse stuck beside me So did the family, which is what we're supposed to do. It's supposed to be for better or for worse, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, that in sickness and in health vow, they are supposed to keep to it. Not always do they do that.
Yeah, it is crazy, isn't it? Well, thank you so much, CJ, for joining us. I'm looking forward to meeting you. I'm going to be in Hawaii probably next year because a friend of mine is needing me to come over there for a little special occasion. So maybe we'll have to meet in person.
That would be fabulous.
Mhm.
And you'll
Absolutely.
enjoy the weather.
Oh, definitely. Right now we have snow on the ground where I'm at. So yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, CJ. I greatly appreciate you coming. And you guys go on over to her website, grab a copy of those books. And even if you haven't went through anything on these books, I'm sure we know somebody that is or has that these books could benefit them too. So share it out. Thank you, CJ. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, guys, I just want to tell you, I love our community. I love what we all stand for and the things that we do together to help others, to pull up our bootstraps and then help others get out of the muck. It's important. Each of these masterminds that we do and our virtuals, these speakers donate their time. They don't charge. They donate their time, their prep time, their delivery time because they care. They really want to see you change. They want to help you overcome the things that you're going through. And one of the things for me to overcome was my own self-value. I didn't think I was good enough or that I could do the things that I saw other people doing. And as Austin said, I needed to get out of my own way because I found out that I was, not only was I thrived at it because it was doing something that I love. And if you're doing something that you love, you're enjoying it. And now it's not a job because a job means that you're working. It's physical labor. It's intense. Why it's called a job. Most people don't enjoy their jobs. They don't enjoy what they do, and they don't enjoy their circle. So my advice to you on that is get out of it. It is that easy. Change your circle. I'm not talking about going and divorcing a spouse right away or breaking up a partnership at work. You need to think about things. But what I am talking about is go after the life that you want. Change your mindset and then find a way to do it. And that's what our conferences are about. That's what this movement is about. It's not just conferences. See, our conferences are an experience because that's exactly what you get. It's not just an event. It's an experience. When you walk out of there, you will be changed. You will have a eye-opening view of what you will be capable of doing with your life. And you're going to say, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. For $350, you can have 3 days of connecting, networking, coaching, speaking, learning, break shops, concerts, food, comedian show. It's all there. Chuck Doyle's even got something a little special for you that he's going to do. And I think Abdul Muhammad is too. He's got a little something he's going to perform. We have so many things at this event that there's something for everybody. But it's not about coming to a conference. It is about coming to meet people that can help you change your life and to help you get on with your journey to becoming the best you. Because it's a journey. It's not a destination. Each day that we strive to become better, you're going to see different people in your life. You're going to see better quality people in your life. You're going to see better job opportunities, better love opportunities is what I would say it. Because if you love what you do, it's not a job, right? But you're going to see your world change. So you want to know what's going on and who's going to be there. Let me play some of these commercials one more time for you, and then we will end this up. But get your ticket. It's next weekend. I mean, really, get your ticket. It's going to come around to your area soon, but right now we're in St. Louis. If you're in the St. Louis area, you don't have to pay for that hotel. Get on over there. You can buy just a day's ticket, or you can just come to the Black Tie event and see the show with Jeremy Nunez as the comedian and then Jennifer Lauren and her band.
One of the best conferences of the year is finally here, becoming the Best You Conference. Join us live or virtually and hear from the greatest speakers in the country. Brenda Ringwood, Terrence Lethbridge, Stacey Wahey, Arcavius Armstrong, Dr. Lotus Roche, Regina Platt, Dr. Rick Fulton, Anthony Russo, Chuck Doyle, Dr. Ruben West, Jennifer Lauren, Jessica Mortier, Dr. Jawanda Rollins-Fells, Dr. Lauren Michaels-Harris, Indy Nam, Tracy Randolph, Isabel Black, Sarah Minguez, Jill Reynolds, Kevin Wilson, Sakoni Prince, Definitely Holly, Chuck Prison, Dr. Michael Freeland, Tommy Morgan, Prince Michael, James Griffin, Charlotte White, Aaron Page, Jeremy Nunez, Jeff Markinet Jr., Belton Showell III. Becoming the Best You Conference, February 17th through the 19th, 2023. Clayton Plaza Hotel, St. Louis, Missouri. Get your tickets today.
Tickets as low as $45. You can watch us virtually and get the same experience. But I'm not going to say the same as in person. You get the same experience from the speakers on the stage, but you're going to miss out on that networking and talking with these speakers, finding some more help right there. It's all included. You're going to get some coaching sessions. We got breakouts. You know, we have 20 breakouts now, 20. You get to pick 4 of the 20. So on Friday, we have breakouts, 5 at 1 hour and 5 in the next. So you get to pick 1 of 5 each hour. And then we do the same thing on Saturday, completely different breakouts. So you can go to 4 different breakouts, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, or you can just buy a daily ticket. You can come on Friday and then come on Saturday, or just come on Sunday. Completely up to you. The schedule's out there. Go on over to comechangeyourlife.com. And, you know, if you want to support our movement, but you don't really have time to come to a conference, we got things. So go on over to Come Change Your Life. There's a nice little bag. Look how big it is. A little canvas shopping bag or whatever you want to do with it with our logo on it. Go on over and check it out. We have our t-shirts. We've got several different styles of t-shirts. We've got white, we've got black, we have gray, and they're wonderful. I've got mine on, got it on. $25. Go on over and check it out. It helps to support the movement. We have so many things in store for you. We have mugs. We have coaching. We can help you do a website. We can help you do your social marketing for your social media. Anything you need, we help you get out there. That's what we do. You're going to find that our prices are really good because we're helping you get to the next level. We're not charging you thousands of dollars to brand you. We're charging, most of our services are $2,000 and under, but primarily right around the $500 mark. Could you imagine getting a website for $500? This is what we use to fund this movement. This is why our tickets are so cheap, because we want to see you succeed. Let me show you one more time who's going to be there. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Would love to see you in St. Louis. ComeChangeYourLife.com.
One of the best conferences of the year is finally here, Becoming the Best You Conference. Join us live or virtually and hear from the greatest speakers in the country. Brenda Ringwood, Terrence Lethbridge, Stacy Wahey, Arcavius Armstrong, Dr. Lotus Roche, Regina Platt, Dr. Rick Fulton, Anthony Russo, Chuck Doyle, Dr. Ruben West, Jennifer Lauren, Jessica Mortier, Dr. Jawanda Rollins-Fells, Dr. Lauren Michaels Harris, Indy Nam, Tracy Randolph, Isabel Black, Sarah Minguez, Jill Reynolds, Kevin Wilson, Saccone Prince, Definitely Holly, Chuck Frizen, Dr. Michael Freeland, Tommy Morgan, Prince Michael, James Griffin, Charlotte White, Aaron Page, Jeremy Nunez, Jeff Markinet Jr., Belton Showell III. Becoming the Best You Conference, February 17th through the 19th, 2023. Layton Plaza Hotel, St. Louis, Missouri. Get your tickets today.
Change starts with you. The only person that's going to change your situation is yourself. The only person that's going to change your relationship is yourself. It takes more than one person to be in a relationship. That is true. But how you respond and how you react and what you say and what you do can make a difference. So go on over to ComeChangeYourLife.com. Would love to see you there. Bye, guys. Have a great one.